in. Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Action Podcast. And today we are doing one of the best films of the 1990s, Pulp Fiction.
Of all time. I mean, let's just say it.
It's up there. It came out in 1994. This is directed by Quentin Tarantino, of course, who before this directed Reservoir Dogs, and obviously went on to direct a lot of other films. And this is also written by Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avary, who also wrote Reservoir Dogs and Beowulf. And this, of course, stars John Travolta in his second film back from his comeback, and Uma Thurman, Samuel L. Jackson, and of course Bruce Willis, and
among others.
This was a treat to watch again. I'm not even gonna lie. I do think this is like fine wine. This movie gets better and better the more times you watch it, because this is so layered of a film. But I'll give you a quick synopsis for our fans here in case they've never seen Pulp Fiction. But Jules Winfield, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and Vincent Vega, played by John Travolta, are two hitmen who are out to retrieve a suitcase stolen from their employer, mob boss Marcellus Wallace, played by Ving Rhames. Wallace has also asked Vincent to take his wife Mia, Uma Thurman, out a few days later when Wallace himself will be out of town. Butch Coolidge, played by Bruce Willis, is an Asian boxer who is paid by Wallace to lose his fight. The lives of these seemingly unrelated people are woven together, compromising of a series of funny, bizarre, and uncalled for incidences. First of all, how good is that explanation, by the way? Do you feel like that even encompasses that what this film's about?
I mean, on the surface, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and in broad strokes, of course. But I mean, there's so many things to this movie. I was so excited to see this movie again. This is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
This movie changed my life.
Yeah. I mean, before I get into everybody what this film meant to me, I will be the first one to admit I probably was not on the bandwagon initially. This film was different. So different than other films that had been made.
But that's true for a lot of people. Like, this was like a hit or miss movie. Like, you either loved it or you hated it for a lot of people when it first came out.
And Quentin Tarantino had a style, and part of it, like, if you don't understand who he is and what he's trying to do, you think it's either poor production or you think it's like it's not well thought out. But he's one of the more cerebral writer-directors of all time, and everything he does has a plan, and a lot of stuff is homage. And so, like, again, for me, maybe the first time I saw it, I wasn't 100% turned on to it because, again, I just didn't understand what he was trying to do. But once I kind of understood the layers, I really saw how great of a film this is. And again, even watching this again the last couple days, you know, it becomes more apparent just how like there's some parts of me that are like, oh, if you're releasing the film today, like, or in the theaters today, you would cut some of this stuff. But when you watch it now, after already seeing it a few times, you're just like, oh no, like, everything is so important, and it makes sense. And it's just, to me, he's like fine wine. Like, you got to allow him to do what he's doing, and you don't want to put your own personal kind of philosophy on a lot of things. And again, for me, this is the film that launched Quentin Tarantino into the eyes and hearts of moviegoers everywhere. This is, John Travolta did Look Who's Talking before this, and like that was his like quote unquote comeback. But this is really the film that really, because it got nominated.
This propelled him into the world of
A-list actor. This put him into the modern
great movies that we just loved after this movie.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's thanks to Tarantino that Travolta is even back in our vocabulary again.
100%. And for me also, like, Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson was a supporting actor, I think, before this, and this propelled him into, man, this guy can really carry a film. This guy has a presence on camera, and of course, you know, we're looking almost 20 years later, like, he has really altered his career and is an A-lister. And again, I think this is what really started it all. Like, I mean, there's so many great quotes from this film. Obviously, we'll get into a lot of this stuff, but Pete, I'll let you just kind of finish your initial kind of points, and then we'll get to Drew and John. But Pete, why don't you go ahead and just finish off what your initial thoughts are on this film?
Yeah, well, I mean, do you guys have another 5 hours? Because I can talk about this movie forever.
No, Pete, we don't. We don't
Yeah,
have.
no, I know we don't. This movie came out when I was a junior.
No.
No, I know. This movie came out when I was a junior in high school, and it was right when I was in this period of change. You know, I went from one guy into another guy, but in terms of writing, I just started like maybe a year or two before, like really like seriously thinking about writing as a career. And I saw this movie, and I hadn't seen Reservoir Dogs yet. This was the first Tarantino film I'd seen, and I remember for years after this movie, seeing this movie, trying to and studying the script, like having the script in hand and reading it over and over again, trying to write like Quentin Tarantino and just failing every single time. Like I'm just writing garbage, trying to write dialogue that's funny and that works with other things. And I just couldn't pull it off. And I've heard a lot of people talk about Tarantino and like, oh, he just writes random stuff and he throws it in a movie, but people have no idea like how detail oriented Quentin Tarantino is when he writes something. I mean, something that's in the first scene is going to pay off in the middle and it's going to pay off at the end every single time. Each little nugget, like you said earlier, when he does a lot of homage. I mean, this is a guy that spent years and years and years watching movies in a video store. Like that was his job. His job was to like sit there and watch movies all day. And he just absorbed that shit. And he grew into this incredible force. And then after, Quentin Tarantino, I can gush about him all day long. He's like my favorite of all time. But I wanted to be John Travolta so bad after seeing this movie. I wanted the hair with the lock that comes straight down. I wanted to have the suit. I wanted to walk like him. I wanted to have the same mannerisms, like the little, like whenever he talks or when somebody talks and he doesn't speak back, he always does this like he does this weird thing with his face every time.
Yeah, he was incredible.
I wanted to be Vincent Vega in the worst kind of way, and I can never pull it off. I had my long hair and I tried to do the lock thing. It just didn't look good.
No, it did. Firsthand, I can tell you it didn't look good. No,
but this movie changed my life. This movie made me appreciate film in a different way. It made me look at film in a different way. I mean, Tarantino's a guy who absorbs other creatives and movie makers out there. But this was the first time I saw this sort of style of film, and it blew my mind. And it was like, you could do anything as long as you're smart about it, as long as you really kind of stick to the rules of screenwriting, but you could do it any way you want. I mean, he just blew it up. I mean, this is one of my favorite films of all time. Top 5.
Yeah, and I think a good comp, like what you're talking about. So a lot of people will watch this and be like, man, a lot of this is improv. But if you know Quentin Tarantino, he's not actually a big improver guy, but he's so good at his words that it seems like it's improv. And the only other comp that I would have, and he's not a film director, but he's a TV director, is Doug Ellen. Because a lot of people thought the same thing about Entourage. They're like, holy crap, like you allowed them to improv so well. And it's like, no, he was so good at perfecting the words to the characters that it just seemed like it. And those two guys to me are on the same level, one for a TV series, one for film. But yeah, like you're saying, they're so seamless with how the words just connect and all that, and it's so casual but yet so constructed, and it's brilliant writing. And I wish we did a category on writing in this one. I regret it, but we have great categories this podcast.
Categories.
But yeah, we were solid on categories this one. But when it comes to writing, like I said, I think this is such a unique film and such a great film on the writing side, besides the film itself. But Drew, let's get into your thoughts. Yeah,
so came out in 94. I did not see it in its first few years. First of all, I think this is probably the first time I watched it in like 15 years.
Oh, wow.
it had been a long time for whatever reason, and it's not. I haven't been on like a Tarantino hiatus. I've seen some of his more recent films a bunch. Just hadn't gotten back to this one for some reason, and I was a little
Same,
bit
by the way. Same. It's
yeah.
been a while since I've seen this one.
And
Really?
I'm not sorry it took me this long because I came in it in a lot of ways, like remembering in the back of my mind a lot of the stuff that I loved about it, but almost seeing it for the first time again because it had been so long. And oh man, what an experience kind of seeing it for the first time again. It was awesome.
Yeah, I was laughing. Even I've seen it a billion times, but I was
laughing out loud by myself. Yeah. Just the whole deal. And
what performances?
Really, God, I mean, we'll talk about. Yeah, I don't want to spoil later categories, but yeah, it's unbelievable. Travolta. Anyway, we'll get into it, but it kind of takes me back to really I saw it for the first time my freshman year of college, and I saw a lot of films. I didn't watch a ton of I watched I loved Star Wars and some of those, a lot of comedy, but I didn't watch a lot of film really until my first year of college, and my college roommate, future college roommate, introduced me to Tarantino and Pulp Fiction and to Reservoir Dogs right after it. We're like, whoa, Reservoir Dogs, whole nother, amazing. Wes Anderson, Coen Brothers, all of a sudden, Kevin Smith, my eyes are like, oh my God, how is all of this amazing sort of independent filmmaking of the 90s out there? And of all of them, they're all brilliant. Tarantino packs such a punch that's on your face with the dialogue. All of them have amazing components to it. And at first blush, Tarantino, yes, he's more violent. Yes, he swears more. All those things, but it works. It doesn't just seem probably some of the critics were like,
it's natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just
some people they'll write something like this, and it's very.
He writes how people talk.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like how our friends talked.
Yeah.
And it's how we wanted to talk after we saw this film. Not all of it, of course. But
I don't know what kind of friends you hang out with.
No, but, John and I can attest. We both hung out with a lot of black dudes and dudes, all that good stuff. And yeah, this was very real. Now, again, different time periods. So yes, you couldn't write this today, I think, in a way, but for that time period, I think it was very real how people talk.
I don't know. I disagree. I think if this movie came out today and we'd never seen it before, I think it would go over just as well. This movie is
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is
a studio would make it
when
today.
Quentin Tarantino, how Quentin Tarantino was talking to his character, I don't think he would necessarily say some of those things.
Yeah,
but back in the 90s, I don't.
DNS.
It wasn't offensive. It wasn't as offensive when he was saying it, but I feel slightly more offensive today because it's just a different time period. I think back then, a lot of people were using those words, and it wasn't.
Drew brought up a really great point about the fact that, I was the same way as you were. Before this film and before I saw Reservoir Dogs, afterwards, I didn't know about film. You know what I mean? I was like Goonies and Star Wars, Indiana Jones, just like you were talking about. This movie opened up this world of real film. You could actually do amazing things and tell stories in all these different ways. So that's a great point. Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll let John go, but the dialogue, and it's not just the words, it's how they say it, each of them, Vincent in his way, Samuel L. Jackson. And again, I don't want to spoil some of the stuff we'll talk about later, but there's no wasted anything. There's no wasted costume. There's no wasted set.
Mm-mm.
The attention to detail with a relatively small budget in terms of how the film looks from top to bottom.
It looks fantastic.
It's unbelievable for $8 million or whatever it was. Anyway.
Yeah, so, $8 million.
What a pleasure.
$8 million.
It's crazy.
Star Wars was made for $11 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, $8 million, including a ton of that was paying for Bruce Willis, right? Because he was a big name.
Yeah.
So
$5 million went to salaries.
Holy S.
$2 million went to Bruce Willis. Thank you for already stealing one of my notes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think the most expensive set was.
You just lost a point.
No, it's good.
Anyway, so I loved it. Loved seeing it again. Loved taking 15 years off and seeing it again, kind of for the first time.
For sure. John Bear, what do you got? So before I let John get into it, so for our audience, just so they're aware, So John won the last. Did you win? Was it Hocus Pocus?
Is that what I won?
I think you won
Yeah.
the Hocus Pocus. And so this was John's film that he picked. Now John wanted Donnie Darko, and maybe some other films, and unfortunately, those films. We're
Yeah,
season
Peter.
1 here, guys. We're season 1. We need to talk about a little bit higher caliber films.
Donnie Darko was like season 5.
Yeah.
Now, how dare you? So this is Pulp Fiction and Donnie Darko
Donnie Darko
along
so
the same
boring.
lines. Yeah.
So
This made a lot of revenue, and it's a classic.
this was the one film that John could get on board with, and that we also agreed was like a top level film. Again, yeah. So this is John's film. So John, speak away.
It is one of my favorite films of all time. It might be my favorite. It's hard to debate in my mind if this is number one or not, but it's that close to my heart. We kind of branched on this earlier, but I just want to speak on this film does speak real. Like it truly does. Like I'm not saying I was around some assassins or, some stone cold killers growing up, but I was around some hard ass people around the family and friends. And this is how people spoke, especially like the nuance of actually getting intricate, getting raw, speaking on shit that's not PC. This is how people around me spoke at the time, a lot of adults too. So it was crazy to see this door open in filmmaking, to see what I had, it encapsulated, what I saw in raw, I guess, suburban culture in the LA County extended scene of growing up in the late 80s and early 90s. So all of a sudden Hollywood or Tarantino puts it out there for everyone. And it caught people off guard, but then it opens up these doors and floodgates for people just to go out and artistically express real. And, just, I hate to keep saying raw, but Pulp footage of just some gunky stuff on true existence of society. So I'll start with that. The reason I really, really dig this film is I had a cousin named Timmy, a little younger than my dad. My dad was his uncle. And Timmy hits up my dad one day. He's like, Tommy, dude, you got to see this film, man. That young cat, Tarantino, does Reservoir Dogs. So I remember my dad watching the VHS of Reservoir Dogs and just hear him in the background, like, ooh, and ooh, just making his noises. And he calls me in as a 12-year-old for a couple scenes. Like, dude, Bear, he'd call me, like, you come check out this, man. This dude is legit. And I saw some of the footage of Reservoir Dogs, but never in its entirety. Not at that point, at least. And I was like, man, this dude is badass. I was like, yeah, man, this is crazy stuff. Don't tell your mom. I was like, cool. So the hype of Timmy hits up my dad again. The cousin's like, hey, dude, that Tarantino guy has another movie coming out. It's Friday, man. You should take John, man. This one's supposed to be badass. I think he read about an Alley Weekly, like kind of like the synopsis built up.
LA Weekly.
My dad, sure enough, picks up me and one of my buddies, and my mom knows the story now, but at the time we had to keep this one a secret. So we left, actually got right out of school, go to Santa Anita, one of the movie theaters, I think near Arcadia, I forget, or Monrovia, but we go in, no, it was Sierra Madre, sorry, it doesn't matter, but we go up to Sierra Madre, to a little theater up there.
Hastings Ranch?
Hastings Ranch, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we go up there,
Yeah.
and we're like
Trying to get a point for that, Pete?
I got a point.
maybe 7 minutes late. So I'll never forget this. So we walk in right at the end of the first scene with Pumpkin and Honey Bunny. So we don't catch that. Yeah, you can't walk into any movies late, but especially with this movie is late. So we go in, we missed the whole scene, but we go in and watch the rest of the movie. And I just remember being captivated. I remember like just my jaw open, my dad's jaw open, my best friend, and just I had never seen anything like this ever in my life. Of course, we had to rewatch it like 2 weeks later and go back and pay again to see what that first thing and how it intertwined, because I remember still being confused and just blown away at the end of it. But I think we forget how many people were just confused by the sequence of the film and how it was edited. But it was, to me, in the end, it comes together beautifully, especially when we watched it a bunch of times. So it's just a groundbreaking. It's probably my top movie of all times. I have great memories with the family built around it, and it just opened up the floodgates for people to be raw in filmmaking. That's why I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, I'm trying to remember. I'm really trying to think like a film that tried to do what this film did, and I'm like, I think you're thinking like, I don't think anybody really did something like this. I mean, I know like one of the bigger deals of this film is they said the F word 263 times or something like that, or I forget the actual stat. I have it written down somewhere, but again, like the rawness of it, like, I mean, this is not Mean Streets, this is not Goodfellas, this is not even the Godfather. Like, those are just such different tonal films. Like you're saying, like this was such a conversational piece, and we read the synopsis earlier, and it's like if you read the synopsis, you're just like, okay, like cool, thanks. But when you watch this film, it's like it completely misses what this film is about. And again, it's really just it's about these darker characters, but we get to really dive deep into their mindsets and like again like the royale with cheese scene and like it's just like these guys are about to kill somebody and they're talking about a cheeseburger and again, that like that's part of the brilliance of this film is
and that's what I love the most about it.
Say it again, Pete.
So that's what I love the most about it is that these are everyday real people who have their jobs, and when it's time to do their jobs they do it, but in between that time nobody knows what's going on, so he put it on film. When two hitmen are driving the car on the way to go hit somebody, what are they talking about? Well, here's
their version of water cooler talk.
Homeboy just came back from Amsterdam talking about all this shit,
and that's what
talking about Tony Rocky Horror, and then bam, something intense happens. It goes from this movie takes you on such a ride where each scene takes you from I'm really enjoying this conversation, I'm laughing, this is the funniest thing ever, and then all of a sudden boom, it's serious and it's intense and you're tense and you're in your seat and you're like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? And the way they time it out and the way that they pace this movie editing wise, this movie should have won best editing.
Dang it, you took it away.
Well, I think it got did it get nominated? I don't know. We'll have that later. But so I do want to bring up something, and I do want to preface this because I don't want this cut up and said wrong. But I think this is a very important time in film history, and especially now. This is if you look at hindsight, it's a bigger deal than it was back then. But so Quentin Tarantino obviously is the writer director, but the producer, not even the producer, the executive producer of this film is Harvey Weinstein. And this is at a time period where Miramax, I think it was Drew, you mentioned about Kevin Smith, you mentioned about
Wes Anderson. Yeah.
So this is when Harvey Weinstein, so a lot of people obviously know Harvey Weinstein as the Predator, and he is all that stuff. And we're going to separate the two. But
we're going to compartmentalize.
We're going to compartmentalize because as bad as a human being that he is, he did still have a very good talent of finding things that no one had ever found before. And Harvey Weinstein had a reputation of finding these films that nobody knew about and turning them into Oscars and contenders. I mean, he won Oscars for Shakespeare in Love. He won Oscars for Pulp Fiction, Good Will Hunting, I believe, as well. I mean, and again, let's compartmentalize. I'm not obviously blowing up Harvey Weinstein. He's a bad, bad man.
And you're not condoning his actions. You're making a point about the time period in which this movie,
and he still plays launched. A large role in film history because
100%.
He launched
a lot of careers and blew up a ton of films and won various awards. He was a super talented dude, and it's unfortunate that he couldn't just be happy with being an amazing producer.
It
allowed independent filmmakers to be distributed and actually,
there's no Quentin Tarantino without Harvey Weinstein. And again, I don't want that ever to be quoted, but I think he did all of Quentin Tarantino's films except for the last one, Hollywood, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And so
for obvious reasons,
yeah. So, but I do want to point that out again as more of a film historian versus a social commentary here. Like again, you don't have Quentin Tarantino without Harvey Weinstein, unfortunately. But he did play a large role in all of that. So, with that being said, for our audience that's not familiar, we award points for every little category. This is ultimately a competition, and the winner gets to select the next film that we will all review. Now, this is a new group, so we may have a new dynamic here as well, but that's what's at stake today. Winner gets to pick the movie, and so for the initial competition commentary, I'm going to give. Actually, I loved everything that everybody said. I'm going to go ahead and give Pete because I liked his actual second rebuttal.
Beautiful.
And
That's
sometimes
a
it's about
smart
that.
play.
If you talk for 45 minutes,
If you talk for 45 minutes, sometimes you just win the point because I tune out and I don't remember what anybody else says.
I'm blacked out.
So yeah, I don't remember anything that Pete said, but I know he talked more than.
Listen, rewatch it. It's really good. Good stuff. Beautiful what I said.
So Pete's gonna get the first point. Let me write that down because apparently I've done a terrible job the last couple episodes.
The last
I'm
time
writing it down too.
read your own hash marks.
I know, yeah.
Heat 1, Drew, nothing.
0, John.
0.
Writing them down.
Okay, so a couple other things. So we talked about it slightly earlier, and I just want to mention this because it's very important, again, for our filmmakers to understand this. This movie was made for $8 million, which was still a low budget at that time. However, this grossed over $213 million worldwide and
Can I interrupt real fast?
Yeah.
This was actually made for $3 million, right? If you do the math.
Theoretically, yeah.
Theoretically, right?
Oh, I was
If
about to
five
get.
of it went to
Yeah,
actors.
I was about to get in that stat, Pete, but you.
That's incredible.
I should cut you off for a point on that one because I'm literally about to say that, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So this made 107 million domestic, and the movie cost only 8 million to make, but the initial budget was reportedly even lower until Bruce Willis was added to the cast. 5 million went to pay the actors and actresses' salaries. So this was basically made for 3 million, and then this had a lot of bigger names, so that's where a lot of the money went. And the film was already profitable when its worldwide rights were sold for $11 million, mainly on the strength of Willis. So that was incredible. This was selected in 2013 to be in the Library of Congress National Film Registry, which is basically like the Hall of Fame for films. And in 2007, the American Film Institute ranked this as the 94th greatest film of all time, which
Am I allowed to come back?
yeah, I think we would probably all agree over under is probably lower than that.
Yeah.
Some of these older films that get added to it. I mean, again, we're watching this movie, guys, almost 30 years later, and I think this movie holds up fantastic.
Mhm.
I think it even gets better. The more I watch this, the more I like this film. But this,
94 is super low. This is
yeah, I might even put this a top 50 film all time.
got to crank that up a little bit higher.
Yeah. On the review side, so again, sometimes this will tell a better story of what this film's impact is. 8.9 IMDb rating. That's number 8 all time. This had a 94 Metascore. Our boy Roger Ebert gave this 100.
God rest him.
Yeah. He said, like Citizen Kane, Pulp Fiction is constructed in such a nonlinear way that you could see it a dozen times and not be able to remember what comes next. 1,000% on that, by the way. I was still confused.
Totally.
I'm like, wait, does this happen next? What's happening? So I can totally relate to that. Variety gave this also 100. A spectacularly entertaining piece of pop culture. Pulp Fiction is the American Graffiti of violent crime pictures, which I actually really like that synopsis. And then the worst rating that this got was from the Los Angeles Times.
LA Times.
Yeah, always got to point out our boys here at the LA Times. It's got a 60 from Kenneth Turan. The writer-director appears to be straining for his effects. Some sequences, especially one involving bondage harnesses and homosexual rape, have the uncomfortable feeling of creative desperation of someone who's afraid of losing his reputation, scrambling for any way to offend sensibilities. That was actually written in 1994. Kenneth Turan, you missed the boat, buddy. He
just wanted to be different, right? Like either
Chances are he's out of the business.
giant dump in his pants.
Yeah, but I think where he misses the boat is I don't think Tarantino was doing something to be different. I think he was coming from like we all talked about, like, I don't know if he necessarily experienced any of this stuff, but it all felt real. Like none of this felt fabricated or like what's the word?
Contrived.
Contrived. Yeah, yes. None of it felt contrived.
Point for Peter.
Like yeah. Like I remember watching that scene today that they're talking about, And yeah, you're definitely not expecting it, but it didn't feel like I can't believe they're doing that. It was
It wasn't
like,
gratuitous or anything.
no.
I was shocked the first time I saw it. I was like, "What the fuck? Why would you put that in this film?" But I mean,
But that's I think that's what the payoff makes it so much better because Bruce Willis's character would not have made those decisions if it wasn't so extreme. Because at the end of the day, he was just a good person. And he's like, dude, I can't like I still had a relationship with this guy, and I just can't let someone else go.
but Marcellus would have never released the death warrant that was on him
100%.
if he hadn't have gone through something horrific and actually saved him. He saved him from continuing to have that act done to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who knows what the end result is still. Like, they could have murdered him after that.
No,
But it's so Tarantino style. It's graphic. It's in your face. It's like, look, this is as real and as raw as I'm going to get. If you think it's offensive, just watch me again in about 10 years and you're going to think, this is so tame. And yet I totally understand what you were doing back then.
I remember being an 8th grader and trying to explain this film to like my friends at school. They gave me some weird looks.
Yeah.
Not a cool thing, man.
but even
It was crazy.
like even when you think about it, like the juxtaposition, because like this whole film, you're fearful of like Marcellus Wiley, or not Marcellus Wiley. Wow.
He's a sports commentator.
Yeah, I know. My bad, Marcellus.
Hot take. Great take.
From Colombia.
But like this whole film, everybody's scared of Marcellus, and then all of a sudden, like again, just bad circumstances, and then all of a sudden it gets turned.
I think that's why he did it. He was the person that was the most dominant, and he had to
100%.
be made the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
No, 100%. No, but again, that's where again Kenneth Turan doesn't know shit, and
Well,
this is like, dude, this is actually really good writing because you've completely flipped everything upside down, and then there's still justification on the end game that all plays out where it wouldn't make a lot of sense. Like again, in a weird effed up way, it all still makes sense. So yeah. Anyways, so with that, people, we're gonna move to our top 5. We're gonna rank our top 5 Quentin Tarantino films, and this could be writing and or directing. And so, Drew, we're gonna start with you on this one.
We're going 1 to 5 or 5 to 1?
5 to 1. Yeah.
Okay. Number 5, and it was a struggle for me to put it this low on the top 5, but so the other ones in front of it, I'll explain, but is Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs is so good. The dialogue in there, the actors, just all of them. Haven't seen that also in many years. Now I'm desperate to go back and watch it, but like Tim Roth.
Damn, I ain't watch that again.
You're gonna love it.
I can't wait.
You really are.
Reservoir Dogs for me, and obviously it set the tone, right? Like it started his career, started his trajectory, so super important. Django Unchained is number 4 for me. I flirted with putting it higher. It's really good. Like Leo as a scumbag is great. Jamie Foxx's performance, Samuel L. Jackson's performance, amazing. All of those.
Christopher Waltz.
Christoph Waltz always.
Christopher.
Yeah, and kind of an interesting juxtaposition the way that a particular word is used in that film versus the film that we watched for this one. It's kind of interesting to see how that evolved a little bit, right? And so I like that one. Jackie Brown, number 3. Didn't used to like Jackie Brown as much, but it's
sneaky one of the best movies. Yeah,
it's really, really good. Very different than any of the rest of them. You talked about homages earlier, like harkening back to blaxploitation films with Pam Grier, like so good. De Niro in such a different way from what he had been doing, and Bridget Fonda. I mean, just a great film. And then 2, probably the one that I've rewatched the most over and over again, Inglourious Bastards. I love that film.
So good.
Casting is incredible. The story is incredible. The alternative history. Christoph Waltz.
I totally agree with you.
I mean, Christoph Waltz. May I have another glass of your delicious milk? I mean,
yeah,
literally just that scene. I used to teach.
What an opener!
It's unbelievable. So that movie's.
I need to watch that movie again.
It's unbelievable.
God.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And number one, I hate having to do the film that we're doing, but Pulp Fiction. I mean, it's his best. It's at the top of the list.
Wow, you've got two of them I didn't even put on there. So, or you have.
It's a great list.
Yeah,
Great list.
Again, I think that's what I like. That's what I'm going to like about this list because
I like your list, Drew. I like your list.
Thanks. And it kills me to leave off a lot of them.
Yeah.
Totally. You didn't put Death Proof number 1. Interesting.
Uh-huh.
All right, John Bear, you're up next. What do you got?
Ooh, this is tough for me, man. I still feel confused on this, but this is how it finally ended up. This was an internal battle with me because he is my favorite director of all time.
Bar none.
Is that?
Bar none. Like
yeah.
favorite director of all time.
For sure. It has to do with the family history. I told you, like he's there. So this is a tough one, but
Before you get into it, Pete and Drew, where does Quentin Tarantino rank in your favorite directors of all time? Maybe that should have been a fucking list. That's my
That
bad.
should have been a list.
Fuck.
He is a close absolute second to Spielberg. I mean, I can't do better than Spielberg. He's the best. But Tarantino came into this world of filmmaking and just shook it all up and said, I'm going to dominate this shit. And he has. But, I mean, you can't make a better film than a Steven Spielberg film.
Yeah. So ultimately he's 2 for you, but John 1. Drew, is Quentin Tarantino in your top 5 directors?
Oh, he's in my top
1 and 1A.
He's in my top 3 for sure. I am an enormous Coen Brothers stan. There's almost nothing they do that I don't think is next level brilliant in different way. So for me, they're kind of 1A, 1B. Obviously, Spielberg, amazing. I can go back to some directors from the 50s that I really like, but for me, it's probably Coen Brothers and Tarantino 1A, 1B.
Yeah, if we're doing just modern, we're not going to include like the Hitchcocks and all. Like I'm not going to include those guys, but modern. I would agree with Pete. Spielberg's my number 1. Tarantino's definitely a top 5, especially his later films. I mean, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean, spoiler alert. Like that. I love that film in so many different ways. I think Tarantino's getting better and better with the actual filmmaking. Like he's always been good at dialogue and stuff like that, but I think the way he's using all of his tools are getting better and better and better. Like Hateful Eight, same thing. But he's the top 5 for me. I don't know if he's higher than that, but Edward Zwick is a guy for me, and he's not a big guy, but he did Glory, he did Last Samurai. He's more of a historical fiction guy, which is more my genre, but Mel Gibson, just because of Braveheart and The Patriot, which are 2 of my favorite films. But I mean, Tarantino's more consistent than a lot of those guys.
Mel Gibson and Harvey Weinstein apologist in the same episode.
I know, right? Like, geez. Our ratings are going to drop tremendously. Anyways, John, go ahead and get
Let's
back
go.
to
Let's just go for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is cool with y'all, but I comboed for my number 5. I comboed volume 1 and 2 of Kill Bill together.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I did that as my 5. You do have to watch both in their entirety, even though volume 1's amazing on its own. Even if you don't know how the story ends, it's amazing. It was fun for a martial arts film. It took it to a whole different level. And that's kind of how I see it, is just his take on martial arts and film and true artistry. He used, fun, like zany backdrop medium when it comes to green screens as medium for his digitization. So it was cool just to see him do that, have fun with it. Great fight sequences, choreography is bar none some of the best for anything I've seen in like modern day fight sequence. That was supposed to be okay to break the fourth wall and say, guess what? We know that we're not taking this way too seriously. We're still giving this some artistic appeal behind it. So I dig volume 1 and 2. Kill Bill is my number 5. Reservoir Dogs, number 4 for me. Like I said, changed my life. I actually, to finish that story from earlier, I got to see pieces of Reservoir Dog, then go see Pulp Fiction, a couple years later. Then I have to actually go and see Reservoir Dogs in its entirety about like maybe 94 after Pulp Fiction comes out. So it just blew me away that you can get away with that type of, murder-esque story.
And to be clear, because Reservoir Dogs was 93, right?
Was it 92 or 93? I know it was before Pulp.
92 or 93. So you're 12, 13. So obviously you didn't see it in its entirety though. You didn't see it in theaters, I guess I should say.
I didn't. I saw it on VHS actually. Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming Pulp Fiction you didn't see in theaters either. I mean, you're 14.
I did opening day. That's part of that story.
Oh, because your dad went with you.
Yeah, I went opening day. We were all pumped about it.
I don't think I saw Pulp Fiction till like late 90s, I think.
I saw it twice, and I think within 2 weeks of it being out. Yeah. It was pretty crazy.
I probably saw it, like 96, 97.
One of the best last few minutes of most movies, in my opinion, when it comes to violent, gangster-esque movies. So awesome. Number three for me is Inglourious Bastards. Beautiful. I like a lot of it has to do with Christoph Waltz and just his performance in that movie. Great story. It's great that he changes history. It was fun for him to be like, fuck it, you know what, I'm going to change the history and how it's written, and we're going to give this thing a pretty cool ending that's going to be my style of ending. It was cool to applaud that, and that moved me right into number two. When it comes to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, same thing. He's going to change some histories and let us rah and say, fuck it, that's not how it should have ended. It should have ended like this. Is real life, horrible act. This is how it should have gone down. But I really dig this as a number two movie for him because, like you said, Paul, with resources and tools, he got kind of esoteric when it comes to filmmaking on this one and really just went primarily on like some cool ass focus shit when it came to some of his shot selections and cinematography. I think by this point, we all know he has so much, his resources are unlimited. And I could tell they did a lot of pre-homework when it came to how they lit this film specifically.
Ridiculous homework on this film.
They probably had a shit ton of takes on this one because to me it was almost perfect when it came to like the color code of this movie, just how everything was portrayed on the big screen.
Yeah,
it's a pretty damn near a flawless movie to me.
Have you read the novel yet or no?
Mm-hmm.
It's on my list of things to do. But there's a whole novel on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and apparently they want to shoot a whole season of the Western that he's on. Wow. Like they want to shoot a whole like 12 pilot.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
Yeah. Of that episode. Like I said, there's so many reasons why I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, just costume, set design. It felt like he transformed us back into that time period of Hollywood in the Escarcega Valley County. So it was really, really freaking cool.
Even the Bruce Lee scene. Honestly, I could do we can do that podcast.
Yeah.
But even the Bruce Lee scene with him fighting Brad Pitt. I mean, I know that there was a little bit of controversy there too, but it's still such a great scene of him, Brad Pitt, just going against Bruce Lee. Like, that's insane. Like, awesome. Again, that's what makes Quentin Tarantino, because he's like, hey, I want to write this scene.
Yeah, and we're gonna make it believable too. I'm gonna get an A-list actor, and he's gonna pull this shit off sly. So It was cool. I dug it. And obviously for me, number one is Pulp Fiction. It's great. That's why we're all on this podcast. Like it's an amazing movie to me. To me, it's a perfect movie. I'd give it a 99 out of 100. If you can't create something to be perfect, but to me, it's damn near a perfect movie. I have one moment I could talk about later that I would change, but it's not even that big of a deal, and it doesn't even warrant taking a point off. But
don't jump the gun.
Not jumping the gun. Yeah.
No, like I'm with you. Again, I don't want to jump the gun either, and because there's a couple times where I'm like, maybe this could be cut more. This could be. But again, like, I think what I wanted cut 10 years ago, like I don't want cut now. And I think that, again, just this film is wine. And I think Quentin Tarantino in general is wine. He's not beer. And it's not like, again, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the more I watch it, the more I enjoy it. And yeah, it's going to take some hits maybe on the box office side, but I think people that generally like his style now have given him the freedom to be like, nah, dude, do what you're doing. We'll trust you and we'll eventually get to your level, but it's going to take 3 or 4 times, and then we're going to see what you see. And I feel like that's a general consensus when it comes to Tarantino. So awesome. Great list, John. Pete Dog, you're up now. What do you got?
Beautiful lists, both beautiful lists, gentlemen. Unfortunately, mine's the perfect list, so I will get it
Here
now.
we go.
Our lists are so similar, but it's like almost like when you shuffle cards and the one side gets mixed with the other side. You and John Bear, Drew, you took my movies and you just kind of went like that. So number 5 for me.
First of all, you sound like a shitty dealer, Pete. I don't want to play poker with you.
How else do you shuffle? You take two sides and you equally
you shuffle them. Right. It all blends very evenly. But
yes, that's the point. Both sides get blended together to make my perfect list.
Well, you said they got cluttered a little bit. I don't know. I was a little worried about playing poker with you, but
here's the perfect list. Ready? Yeah. Number 5, like Drew said, is Reservoir Dogs. Now, look, it started it all. It was incredible. It has to be in your top 5 no matter what. And for what they did with that movie,
you know what the budget on that one was?
Harvey Keitel was the biggest name.
Yeah.
And
you know what the budget was on that movie or no?
No, I have no idea.
All right. You keep talking, I'll get that number.
$30,000 probably.
I got
Harvey Keitel was the biggest name in there. All those other guys, you didn't really know them until this film.
Yeah.
How the hell did they get Harvey Keitel? Yeah. It's just like bananas.
Script.
That is one of the best movies I've ever seen. And number 4,
1.2 million.
What was that?
1.2 million.
Oh shit! Damn.
Unfortunately, it only made 2.9 million. But like you're saying, the cult status of that movie. But that film obviously gave him the money to do Pulp Fiction. So,
but it was innovative. It was like
Mike Gardner has houses worth more than that shit.
Yeah.
It was an innovative film. It was like, I'm going to make a bank robbery movie and never be inside of a bank one time. Like who does that? Who did that at that time, except for Quentin Tarantino? And that's why he broke into this business in the way that he did. And that's why he was able to make a movie like Pulp Fiction. So it has to be on the list. Reservoir Dogs, number 5. Number 4, I combined them like John Bear did Kill Bill. There was something incredible about this series, and you had to wait for the second one to come out. But, Jackie Brown came out, and I agree with Drew. Like, people didn't understand that movie when Jackie Brown came out. It's one of my favorite movies. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
The way that story is told and the way that he does it it's incredible. However, I couldn't put it on my list because I had to put Kill Bill on there because it came right after Jackie Brown, and it just exploded. Like, what's Tarantino going to do next? Kill Bill. Bam. I'm going to bring Uma Thurman back, and she's going to be a badass, and it's going to be an homage to Bruce Lee, and it's going to, oh my God. Like John Bear said, the choreography was incredible. So that's number 4. Number 3 and number 2, I was really struggling, but we're all in agreement. I put Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 3, but man, it's 2A really, because that's one of the better movies that I think I've ever seen. And like Paul was saying, every time you watch it, it just gets better and better. It's almost like the last episode we did, Paul, when we talked about Nope. Yeah. Every time you watch it, like you just find something else. And it just elevates the film. Once Upon a Time is like that. Every time I watch it, it's like I want to keep watching it. I want to start it over and watch it again and see what else I can pick up. Number 2, I put Inglourious Basterds because it introed me to the world of Christoph, and that guy is brilliant. He played that part to perfection, and so did everybody else in the cast. But that opening scene that should be the intro to every filmmaking class. How should I intro my film? Watching Inglourious Basterds. That's how you start a film. Wow, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Just go and watch it again, Paul, please. And number 1, Pulp Fiction.
I need to.
Pulp Fiction is the best movie. It's just, we're going to talk about it ad nauseum.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I agree with a lot of you guys. Like, it's. I think that's what's so great about this list is I don't think anybody's wrong here.
Can I guess a movie that's on your list, Paul? That's on no one's list. That's going to be on Paul E.
Yeah. There's definitely one that nobody
Hateful
put
Eight,
on.
Mr. Western. Yeah, I know Hateful Eight on your list.
Hateful Eight.
If one of us would have said it, we would have got the automatic point.
Yeah.
How can you not have it on your top 5? But you can't almost.
But Paul's gonna have it.
But what I enjoy about every one of your lists, everyone's about experience, right? So for me, Pete, I don't even think I was living in LA at the time. I think when I saw Hateful Eight when I was flying back into town, but I saw it in Burbank, and it was the IMAX 70, and they handed out like the brochure, and I saw it in its full gloriousness, and nobody had shot a film in IMAX 70 since the 60s. You know, and again, it's just that's Quentin Tarantino.
Stunning.
And they had to reinvent how to like make the cameras. Like again, I love that stuff because as just a filmmaker, he's thinking about different ways to present a film, and it's not just about the film itself, it's also just the presentation of the film. And so for me, Hateful Eight always just has a dearing heart to it because the cinematography of it is fantastic. I just love, again, like the whole...
It sucks you into that world. It makes you part of that world, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and then just the cameos. I mean, he was able to get a A-lister Channing Tatum to do a small role. Samuel Jackson, of course, is excellent. I mean, all the guys are in it. It's just so many great actors. Jennifer Jason Leigh, who hadn't been in a film in so long, does a great job in that one. And yeah, I really love that film. So my list, again, a culmination of everybody's. Number 5, I put Inglourious Bastards. I would agree with Pete. I feel like probably should be Reservoir Dogs. I actually haven't seen Reservoir Dogs, so it's the only reason why it's literally not on my number 5. I literally haven't. No, I've never seen it. Dude, I think I've seen a scene of it maybe, but I just have never gone.
What did you see? The ear cutting scene? What scene did you see?
Yeah, I've seen clips of it. I've never actually saw it. I'm going to do it
tonight.
Honestly,
don't go to bed tonight.
Inglourious Bastards. I need to see Inglourious Bastards that again, and Kill Bill. Like those are the ones I never really have gotten into, but for no reasons. I just need to actually sit down and watch them. But that's why I love this podcast. Is it makes you kind of want to focus on a film director, and so I put Inglourious Bastards as number 5, but Reservoir Dogs to me is the same. Those are both my number 5s. Number 4.
Give him what?
I know. Drew mentioned it, but Django Unchained, I absolutely love that film. Again, it was so unique as a Western, and then it was funny as hell, but then...
So funny.
Yeah, excellent film. Number 3, Pulp Fiction, again, while we're watching this. And again, Pulp Fiction, it might be higher. I just wasn't... Great. I didn't grow up with Pulp Fiction. So Pulp Fiction is actually kind of new.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I mentioned, number 2 is Hateful Eight, only because I just have an actual personal relationship with that film. And I absolutely love it. And then number 1 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, I
knew that was going to be your number 1.
It's just an homage to Hollywood. It's everything that I love about film.
Yeah. You love that movie.
It's just so... And by the way, I don't think it's a perfect film. I think the story is actually whatever. I think it's okay. But I just love all the techniques that he uses, and it's just weirdly entertaining, and it just gets better and better. Like the ending, the ending's like, all right, cool. Like I like that it's a risk, but at the same time, it's
really more about the journey, huh?
It's the journey, 100%.
Who cares?
The film itself, I'm not, again, like hugely... I don't think it's the best ending. Pulp Fiction, I think, is probably a better ending, especially after rewatching it. You know what I mean? But hold on, sorry, my light. Okay, awesome. So with that, I'm gonna give my list points. I'm gonna give it to John on this one, only because I think you guys all had the equal list. I just love how John explained Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. To be honest.
You like the way he just droned on for hours?
Yeah, on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But yeah, y'all had good lists on that one. So with that, we have our updated scoreboard. We have Pete 1, Drew 0, John Bear 1, and we're heading to our next category, which is the Oscar goes to. And this can go to a cast or crew member who performed the best. Could be a writer, director, actor, cinematographer, whoever. Whatever the element of the film worked best. Now, I want to preface this now. The actual Oscar that's won was for best writing. This went to screenplay written directly for the Scream, Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery. So with that, guys, I would say, obviously, I think it's a no-brainer that Quentin Tarantino deserves the Oscar for this film. So with that, let's choose somebody else. Let's all agree. We'll choose somebody else besides Quentin Tarantino because he's the obvious choice. He was absolutely brilliant and he deserves the Oscar that he won. This was also nominated for Best Picture, and that went to Lawrence Bender because he's the film producer. And side note, he was also one of the long-haired yuppie scums at the coffee shop. John Travolta was nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role. And Samuel Jackson was nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. Uma Thurman was also nominated Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Quentin Tarantino was nominated for Best Director. And Sally Menke was nominated for Best Film Editing. So those are some of the nominations. So with that, John Bear, we'll start off with you, despite what Pete may say. John Bear, who gets your best Oscar?
To me, it's easy. It's Sally Menke for editing. It's just clearly her. I know it's going to be other people's. I mean, she changed the game on this one, man. Just her cut sequence. She did. I heard stories about how they went in post-production to discuss scene sequencing, but just her chopping up scenes in general, some of the shots she chose. There's a lot of backstory to what she did. To me, she.
By the way, do you care to mention all that? Because honestly, I don't know all that stuff.
I've just read, so I don't know how much of it is true or not, but just I hear a lot of it was obviously QT, doing his thing, but I hear she was a true artist in the background when it came to editing this film. Simple as that. If there's truth to that, I'd have to go and study more. It's just more of like things I've heard through passive conversations. So I have another.
Tarantino, who are you having these conversations with?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You and QT, got it.
Yeah, well, back in them days. No, absolutely not. No, it was, I don't know. She did something cool. Like, we still talk about what she did in this movie, So simply put, someone else isn't going to explain it better. So I'm sure Pete or Drew might have even picked her and they probably have some cool shit to say. So you might give them the point.
Well, Pete, you're up.
Yeah. Well, to expound on what he just said, just to give you guys some clarity.
There we go.
Sally and Quentin Tarantino were two peas in a pod. She was just as much a filmmaking innovator as he was, and she was absolutely integral into Quentin Tarantino's films. These films would not have been what they were without her. The way that they hold on people while other people are talking, just so you get that sense of emotion in that scene that builds that real tension that you feel in some of these most incredible scenes that are happening. That's
was it her idea to put like the title, they have like the Bonnie sequence and stuff like that. Was that her idea or was that Quentin Tarantino's idea?
I don't know whose idea was what in the film, but I know for a fact that those two.
I'm just trying to give our audience something here. But
when she died, I know that Quentin was devastated and
she passed away.
Oh yeah, she passed away. I think it was after Kill Bill. I think.
How old was she when she did this film? How old was she when she did this?
Young. She died of cancer, I think. She died real young. If not, she would have been editing. Imagine Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, edited by Sally Menken. I mean, it would have been,
for sure,
50 times better than. I mean, it was great.
He's college, man, for real. Hell yeah.
So yes, John Bear is right. Best editing for sure. But since he said that, I'll push towards and I don't know who did it because I was going editor on this one. I'll say the cinematography. I think the way that this film was shot was brilliant. I think that each scene was very specific, just like his writing.
You don't have a name, Pete?
What's that?
You don't have the name?
No, because I was going.
Yeah, well, that's going to hurt you.
I was going editing 100% on this one.
You should have just stuck with the editing because if
then I'm sticking with the editing.
Nominate somebody.
Editing.
I've already had this conversation with you, Pete.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Pete, Drew, you might have a grand slam coming up, so nothing against you.
Yeah,
But Pete,
Drew, all you have to do is
won
won the name.
You won the point, Pete, right there. You had already won up and won the point.
All right.
So
Best editor, Sally. Bam.
Yeah, dude. I already told you this. Like, I don't know what are you doing?
I know, but I don't like to say what other people say. You know what I mean?
I get it.
I knew you were gonna take
literally
it
do research while John is talking, and like press the IMDb button like I did earlier, and look at who the cinematographer is. I mean, I can do it right now, and in 3 seconds, I can give you who the cinematographer is, and I'm
when John's talking about the editing and not really knowing about stuff, I'm already like encompassing everything that I already know about that scenario specifically and how I'm going to build my case even further.
And while you were talking, Pete, I already figured out that it's Andres Sekula. I already figured that out.
Pronounce his name like that.
Well, yeah, I obviously mispronounced that name, but
hey, Drew, what are your thoughts?
You guys
by the way, he also did Reservoir Dogs, of course,
Right.
and American Psycho. I think he did American Psycho too. Anyways, Drew, go ahead. Drew, we pretty much set you up on a platter here to win this category.
Yeah.
So I am going to go with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Now, you guys made great points, and everybody's performance in this movie is, I think, really, really good. Even characters that I like do really well in this film. Yeah, phenomenal. At what they are. Samuel L. Jackson, I think it's easy for me and probably just to say like it's just Samuel L. Jackson. What's the big deal? But this is this is turned in, like this became the Samuel L. Jackson that we all knew.
Yeah.
And his performance is electrifying. More so than I even remember. And I would have thought, like I said, like it would have maybe, not that it wouldn't have aged well, but just like I get it, right? It's Sam Jackson in your face. Oh my God, you cannot take your eyes off this man in this room. I'm hanging on every single word he says, whether it's being demonstrative and yelling and scary to just the funniest, most sarcastic guy. And I'm not going to spoil some potential quotes for later.
Oh shit, bro. That's all you had to say, Drew.
Can you speak English?
The hamburger, like crushing the Sprite, like from top to bottom, soup to nuts.
There's so many like background quotes that I knew of it from this, but
the back of the car when he's like,
yeah.
I mean,
but this almost became the Sam Jackson that everyone sort of.
But that doesn't change.
Don't try and steal Drew's point here.
Even if he spent the rest of his
building it up,
if he spent the rest of his career dining off this performance, because you can just say like it was some derivation of it moving forward. It's astonishing. It makes every single thing that comes out of his mouth makes me laugh out loud. I believe every word he says, and he is the coolest person ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Sam Jackson.
Yep.
Well, I think there's 0 to 9 who won this point, guys. 0 to 9 who won this point. Drew easily won this point.
Yeah, I get it.
But also to a point, I agree with Drew in that, like I said, I said this in the beginning of my talk, but it's so easy to look back at this film and be like, oh, that's Samuel L. Jackson. He didn't have films like this before. I mean, Coming to America for sure, but I don't remember what he did before this. That was like where he's maybe Time to Kill, but even then he's still not Samuel L. Jackson. This is the film that was like he's a badass motherfucker type.
He was a character actor in that.
But he becomes an A-lister, and he just he just really does control this film. And obviously, again, so many great performances. John Travolta is fantastic. I mean, you have Eric Stoltz, who's also, I mean, so many great performances. Ving Rhames, but yeah, Samuel L. Jackson literally increased his payroll by probably $10 million per movie after this film because everyone realized like, whoa, okay, this dude.
You know what's crazy, man? I don't know if this adds to the point of this being a good argument on Drew's part, but I know so many people that knows all his quotes from this movie, like so many quotes from his movie. And I remember having one conversation and I was like, hey, dude, what was his name in the movie though? And I've been with people that could quote him like verbatim. and can't even figure out his character's name because it's just so big. It's Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
And Pulp Fiction, and everyone forgets it was Jules. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just people will quote everything he says, but can't even figure out his name because it's Samuel L.
Yeah, for sure.
That's an awesome character in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously again, Drew gets the point. So we got an even ball game right now. Pete won, Drew won, John won. We got ourselves a battle here. So next we have the Get Me Ari Gold Award, and so there's a lot of different casting ideas. I'm just gonna pretty much skip through, guys. If you want to go into IMDb.com, you can see some of this stuff. But basically, there was a leaked list of different characters. So the people that were on the list for Vincent, of course, John Travolta, Michael Madsen, who obviously did a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies, Alec Baldwin, Gary Oldman, William Peterson, who was of did Young Guns 2. He was Pete. Help me out.
Pat Garrett.
Pat Garrett. Who else? Jason Patrick, Andy Garcia, Michael Keaton, Denzel Washington, Sean Penn, Tim Roth, who was already in the film, Dennis Quaid, Robert Carradine, Aidan Quinn. So obviously, guys, we're not going to debate whether John Travolta is the right guy. He is obviously the guy. If you had to pick a number 2, who else would you like to see as Vincent Vega? So, Pete, I believe we'll start with you, yes?
Oh, man.
I think the only one that could add some charm with some real toughness, and it would be Sean Penn. I think he would be the only one that could actually pull off a very tough guy, like in a Mystic River or one of his other really tough films. But he's also very charming, and like Vincent Vega is. I think he's the only obvious choice.
Interesting. I don't think he's the only obvious choice, but okay.
He's the obvious
I love how
choice.
you're trying to control the narrative, Pete.
Yeah.
Drew,
guys agree with
Drew,
me.
what opinion do you have here?
Again, it's hard to see anybody else. I'm kind of in between Andy Garcia.
What?
Surprisingly, I'll say surprisingly. But I actually think I'm going to go Michael Madsen. I could see Michael Madsen with long hair. He's got a little bit of that really cool, slightly sinister vibe, but also can turn on the charm. It's not a perfect 1-for-1, but actually I think I'll probably go Madsen.
Yeah. I mean, if Samuel
It's
Jackson...
funny because he plays in Reservoir Dogs the brother of John Travolta in Pulp Fiction, so he can't really play both roles, though, right? Just saying.
I suppose.
I mean, well, Pete, I like what you're doing there. That's good strategy.
Yeah, it's a good picture.
John Bear,
what about you, buddy?
John Bear, what do you have?
It's tough. Maybe Oldman, just because I like Gary Oldman. I'm a big fan of The Professional too, and just it's hard for me to picture anyone else. I know we're all saying the same shit, but I could see Oldman pulling it off, and we would have been probably really proud of his acting. But it's just I don't even want to mess with this list. Like I feel uncomfortable with this whole category because how highly I think of the movie.
I mean, yeah. Like there's a part of me that thinks, like, obviously, like you see Denzel Washington on that list, and you're like, well. Especially like Denzel Washington nails kind of that character later on in life. I don't think he's necessarily there yet at this time period. But I also don't think him and Samuel Jackson would vibe very well. Like Samuel Jackson's such a powerful character, and Denzel Washington sometimes is super powerful, but John Travolta is like powerful, but he's also submissive. You know what I mean? So like their dynamic is so well. I would go with either Michael Keaton, only because he's got that craziness in Batman. Like, he has that, like, he has a little craziness to him. Or Alec Baldwin, only because, again, like, they have humor, but still, like, they're tough. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's John Travolta really did crush this.
It's so funny you said Alec Baldwin. When I was looking at this list, I had him pegged as a potential for Winston Wolfe, just because there's a little bit.
Oh yeah, he could have done that role for sure.
Could have done that one too, right?
Because again, this is Glenn Ross, Alec Baldwin. So this is get your, there's no fucking coffee for closers.
Yet. I don't think he would have had the humor that he developed later on yet.
NBC humor.
I'm curious. The panel. about one character in specifically, because nobody ever talks about this scene in Pulp Fiction. But I'm curious what people think about if you had to recast Christopher Walken.
No.
Nobody ever talks about this scene.
Yeah.
This scene is brilliant.
That's,
And Christopher Walken comes in and he nails this scene. And it's a powerful scene, and he performs it perfectly. Who would you guys pick out of all of those guys for the Captain Coons role? I'm curious because I have one circled, but I think it's obvious. But I'm curious
I think Pacino could have done. I don't know. De Niro.
I think De Niro could have done it really well.
Yeah, De Niro was
what I was thinking too. I was thinking De Niro,
but I wouldn't have said De Niro at the time. I would have said De Niro now because De Niro has done those offbeat roles now. But back then he didn't do any of those roles, so we didn't know what he was necessarily capable of in that context. But like now, he's way
Nobody
more.
ever talks about that scene.
I was going to as my emotional scene. Damn it.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other ones we want to debate or no?
No, we're good.
Okay, let's move on because we can literally spend a whole podcast just on recasting this thing.
Think of Madsen in a suit. Come on.
No, I'm gonna go with Drew. I'm gonna go with Drew on this one.
I'm gonna start saying Daniel Day-Lewis.
The only issue I have with Madsen is he was not a bigger star, but I think character-wise, he probably could have done the best. I'm gonna give Drew the point on this one.
Scott Baio.
The point to the guy.
Scott Baio, I think would have been great.
The brother.
All of a sudden he's gone. He comes
play
back.
the brother.
Okay, so now we Drew just took the lead. It's Pete 1, Drew 2, John 1.
That's ridiculous.
And then we're moving into our next category, which is It's Not Your Fault, Pete. Pete, it's not your fault. The most powerful scene that gets you emotional. Now, I don't think there's a super emotional scene in this film, so if we want to redefine that, we can. But any sort of feeling, whether it's uncomfortable, whether it's any sort of emotion, use it for this scene, because I think mine is not like a powerful scene, but it's emotional. But go ahead. So I think Drew, you're starting this one, yeah?
Yes. I agree. I think John's going to talk about it in a little bit, so I'll let him talk about that scene. I don't know. There's not a scene, because there's not one that stands out to me as like super emotional. Like I love that scene, but at the same time, I'm not ever close to tears. I think one scene that kind of reverberated back to me and gets me a little bit emotional, because when I watched it this time, I watched it twice. Just because I watched it twice in preparation for this. And so on the second viewing, the opening scene, when they're going to, get back the briefcase and they're talking, and the foot massage scene, like when they're talking about that and they are doing their normal shtick, right? Like yelling at each other, arguing, totally off, not getting along. And then they start to quiet down in the hallway and talk about it. And when John Travolta finally kind of convinces him, when Vincent convinces him, a foot massage is more than just a foot massage. And Samuel's character kind of takes that moment and says, I think something like to the effect of like, that's an interesting point. So for the first time, he and Jules, they're so ridiculous. They're always at each other. They're always funny. Yeah. But they're actually listening to each other. They're trying to convince one another of something, and they're connecting on a different level. I didn't even see in the first rewatch, but the second time through, after we know that everything that transpires, kind of love that scene.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. John Bear, you're up.
Oh, I think you guys know my scene. Captain Coon's gold watch scene by Mr. C. Walken, Christopher Walken. It hits home, dude, when he starts like little Bruce Willis's character, little Butch's character, like, hello, little man. He goes off and just tells this whole story about where the watch was purchased and how it was passed down from generation to generation.
He slopes.
Fucking pocket watch, and he gets down to the story of how he knew his dad, and captured, and his dad has to, wear this watch up his ass for I forget how many years it is, and then his dad dies of 5 years, and then his dad dies of dysentery, and then passes off the watch to Captain, his character.
It was such a throwaway line too. He
Yeah.
died of dysentery.
He died of dysentery, and I have to wear this hunk of junk on my ass for 2 years.
Brilliant.
But you see little Butch's face in that moment, and it's like a downward shot panning down of him actually taking it all in. Yes, and you get these lines that make you want to laugh in this story. You're like, this monologue's like, no fucking way is he telling this story to this little man, but he had to hear it because he had to hear the story behind the watch. And of course, obviously, Bruce wakes up and that's his moment, and when he's gonna go back out to fight, and you see why this watch is so important later on. But it's just a hit home scene that I laughed at a lot, but it just means so much to the whole movie and the driving point in the last half hour of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, I don't step on Pete's toes at all, but I'm just gonna say this because this thought literally just popped in my head right now as you said that. Because especially when you watch like the ending of this film. You know what I mean? Like, you're right. Like, I didn't necessarily see a direct correlation initially, but now, like, the more I think about it is, again, like when Bruce Willis is in the shop and he's about to leave and then he's hearing the sounds, I think that's the moment where he's like, oh, my dad did all this just to save a watch. And Marcellus Wiley did a lot for Bruce Willis his whole life, and even though they obviously had beef at the end, he still found this like small way in his heart. He's like, I can't let this guy go out like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't think that moment happens without the watch scene, because again, it just shows, like, again, obviously there's that other scene where he freaks out on Fabian. Yeah, Fabian. And he goes off on her, and he's like, I didn't tell you how important this was to me. But you're right, like that, like Christopher Walken really drove his character, you know what I mean? And he wasn't obviously a perfect character and had a lot of flaws, but at the same time, he basically learned to never quit. And, I think, again, that's just brilliant fucking screenwriting, because it's done in such a back-asswards way. But at the same time, it's so deep.
He has to save Marcellus in a way to redeem himself. So how do I tell that story? And then he eventually gets to the Christopher Walken scene. I bet you he wrote that one last and wrote about the anal scene first. You know what I mean? Like, he has to
100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brilliant scene.
Yeah. There's no way
this talks about it. Nobody ever talks about it.
Well, there is actually a story about, none of this was written. This was not written as a screenplay. This was written as two different stories, and then he ultimately wrote the third that combined it and made it three different stories.
What?
I read that. I read that earlier, but it's not a. This was not a. Hey, let me sit down and write Pulp Fiction. Act 1. Blah blah blah. It wasn't written like that. He had three different ideas of stories, and then he kind of melded them together and connected them. But yeah, to Pete's point. Anyways, Pete, you're out.
Pete, emotional or sad, it's tough.
Pete,
I went with. I'm talking right now. No, I mean, I'm not talking. Okay, good. I went with the most impactful scene because there's no emotion really, because you're really just viewing. You're not really experiencing emotions through this whole film, really. I went with the adrenaline scene. I mean, the build up to that needle with the red marker, just that build up all the way up. Like, okay, so you build up the entire Jackrabbit Slim scene. It's fun. There's that whole dichotomy between her and him. He brings up Tony Rocky Horror. She's talking about how ridiculous.
If you want to win a scene, you use dichotomy,
but there's a connection there, right? There's a connection between the two of them that's obvious, that he struggles with later on. Then all of a sudden he comes out of the bathroom. He's like, I'm not going to F her. I got to be respectful. And she's ODing. And he's like, fuck. And so he's like, I got to go. And I've got to take him over to Eric Stoltz. And that whole sequence of events, like the entire time, right before that, you've been relaxed and having a great time and enjoying this whole sequence of events, and now all of a sudden you're in this thick of panic and tension, and it all culminates to this one moment of, I got to jam this needle into this girl's chest, and that's it.
You do think she's going to die. I mean, this is one of the films where you're like, I don't think she's making it. And
then he's a fucking grease spot.
Yeah. No, that's good, Pete. I honestly, I'm going to give you the point, Pete. I thought John had this point. But honestly,
so you're allowed to switch categories and then get a point?
Yeah, pretty much.
Damn it.
There's no rules, guys. There's no rules. It's how you explain it. And Pete won the explanation on that. John, honestly, you had the point, and Pete just literally stole it from you.
So that's my Ma, the meatloaf scene. It makes me feel good, by the way. So
thanks, Pete. The stabbing of a girl with an adrenaline shot is your feel good scene?
The moment that she hits and everyone comes back in, and then there's laughter, and then everyone in that room fucking feels good.
I mean, look, John. I mean, don't undermine your own next scene. Yeah,
hold on to it.
Hold on to it
in your pocket.
Hold on to it. Okay. So again, like we mentioned, it's Pete 2, Drew 2, John 1. We're moving into, guys, top 5 gangster movies, and again, this is basically defined as, this is not Italian mafia movies. We're defining it as top 5 gangster movies, meaning anything with any sort of sinister underbelly, any film that's got an attachment to that all films qualify. So we started with Drew first on that last one, so it's John Bear again.
Ooh, I have no idea how to judge this list, but let's go for. I'll just put some movies out there. I know the movies I like. I just don't know how to rate them and like how to move them in front of each other.
Not a good start, John Bear. Not a good start.
Go crazy.
We'll go crazy. I think it's a great start because we're all shaking our heads as soon as we got to this category because there's just so many to choose from. And like, who's to say ahead, man?
Well, our next list is going to be even worse. So this is going to be easier than our next list.
I'm going to go with Heat number 5. I want to put it higher, but I go Heat number 5. I'm a big Michael Mann fan. What he does with digital recordings, I like a lot of people don't realize what he's done in the digital game. And for the sound capture, the audio engineering in that film and the downtown LA scene is something that's bar none to comparable. Like people compare Dolby sound. I remember going to the theater and hearing that surround sound, what he did in that scene, and then the digital recordings. It's a beautiful standoff between De Niro and Pacino in that movie. And I know everyone knows the story that was filmed separately and all that whoop-de-whoop, but got one of my favorite actors, Natalie Portman. It's just an amazing movie on so many levels. Big kudos to him. A lot of people don't view it as a gangster movie. Shout
out Natalie Portman.
Shout out Natalie.
Hashtag Natalie Portman.
Do it, homie. That's my number 5. God, this is tough.
Jeez.
I'll go Casino number 4.
Okay.
To me, I don't know how to dig into the film. I just remember loving it. Every time I see it in the background, I watch it. It's feel good. It's just, you believe in those characters, even though it's kind of far-fetched on some of the stuff they do. But, you read the stories of history and what was happening in that era. I'm like, you're like, fuck, this shit actually did happen. Yeah. But they made it glamorous. They made it funny. They humanized it. There was, love and loyalty broken in the movie. And it's a cool-ass movie. Number 3 for me is Scarface. It's Tony Montana doing his thing. Another Pueblo should be okay.
Gotta put that in there.
There's so much that Pacino does in this role.
Just to be clear, we're talking about the
I'll say it. The most overrated movie of all time.
We're talking about the 1988 version, right? Not the
overrated movie of all time.
88, yes. I'm talking 88. You're right. But it doesn't. I'll give you a little bit. Like I understand it doesn't hold. But when it was filmed, but like that portrayal by Pacino, I do love. I'm sorry, I really love that portrayal that he pulls. I believe the accent. I know people give discredit to him in the accent. I liked it. I loved it. I know his buddy.
I'm with Pete though. I actually like the original better, the 1932 version. Like if you guys want to watch old school games,
I get the appeal. I get it, and it's a fine movie. It's a fine movie.
I get why people tear it up, but it's an iconoclast movie.
It is. It is still iconic.
It is iconic. Yeah. That's true.
And it's impactful.
He's an iconoclast from this movie. It's iconic. Yeah. I should put it. There's a lot of just single, like not even scenes, but even just still footage shots of this.
A lot of people agree with you,
coming
John
down
Barry.
banisters. Yeah.
A lot of people put it at number 1 or 2. I mean,
certainly.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're not alone on that at all.
My number 2. God, man, this is tough. I'm gonna get destroyed on this one.
This can't be tough. The top 2 are the same.
Yeah, everyone says this because I know people.
No. Hopefully, you're gonna.
No. I mean that the top 2 should be the same for everyone.
I believe most people are going to debate Goodfellas and Godfather as the top 2. I get that, but what John Singletary does in Boys in the Hood should make a lot of people stand up, or at least understand. Boys in the Hood. The reason I bring it up is because we didn't get to really have a true peek into what that lifestyle was. We've seen it in imagery and and on the news, but it was a movie that needed to be made just to see what people were going through in these neighborhoods, especially people that grew up in LA. And you have so many
it was a lot more real out here.
Yeah, especially growing up in LA.
It was 10 miles away, 15 miles.
The aspects of buddies just being young and kids and just having that influence around them and having to fucking choose just to survive. And that's real shit, man. And then you got the kids that just want to play ball, and that's some of their only ways out, or just to be fucking kids. But you got to actually survive a neighborhood growing up. Yeah. And we haven't really seen it to that nature, and that's why I like it. And I put it up there because it was able for Hollywood to spotlight. It was giving a director a chance.
Argument.
That director didn't have a lot of directors like that. Didn't have a lot of chances before that. People gave him a chance to make this movie that
Ice Cube was awesome, amazing. Yeah, Cube. And it just showed what an all world. I mean, he invented like the 5-tool entertainer. You know what I mean? So it's music, it's acting, it's celebrity, he a businessman. And he invented that.
Yeah, you're right. And I can care less about the point, so I'm going to give 1A, and 1A is both Goodfellas and The Godfather. I'm picking; they're both up there for me. And I got to sneak my Boys in the Hood up there, so that's how it's going to end for me. We all know, for a lot of people, the debate is Goodfellas versus Godfather. Fuck it, put them both at 1 for me. Give me Boys in the Hood number 2.
I love it, John Barry. I love your conviction, John Barry. You know what?
No, the conviction is good.
You didn't care about our rules. You made your own rules. And John Barry, that's what this list is about. It's a gangster movie rule.
John Barry, he makes his own rules every time.
John Barry. Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, Pete Dog, what do you got?
Yeah, no. Boys in the Hood, certainly. Maybe in the future, that's a number 5 for sure. But whatever, we'll digress. I went number 5, standard rule. You put something out there that is like a Boys in the Hood kind of thing, right? You're just like, it's debatable, but it's still great, right? Number 5 for me is Gangs of New York. This movie is awesome.
I like it.
It's an old school gangster fucking movie, and it's great. And I thought the performances were incredible.
It's solid. It's a
solid movie. That's why I put it at 5, because not a lot of people.
You know what though? My only issues with that film, because I think there was greatness to it. I don't think Leonardo DiCaprio was ready for that role yet. He's not
valid
enough. He's not hard enough yet. And Cameron Diaz is the other.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think with different casting, that's a great film.
That movie, but it's such a great movie.
It is. I need to watch that again, but. I just remember being highly turned off by those two because they were so popular.
To me, they felt like
popular picks.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I wasn't turned off by Leo, but I was definitely turned off by Cameron Diaz because I've never liked her, really, to be honest. But I saw something in him, and I thought he did just what he needed to do. But that movie was all about Daniel Day-Lewis. That was
100%. He is amazing. He carries that.
And he's so good. And even the story itself is so good, but whatever.
Yeah, digress.
Number 4, I put Casino, just like John Barry. It's a classic gangster movie, and it's done in a different way than the obvious number 1 and 2 on these lists. And then, but it's still brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Number 3 for me is a sneaky gangster film that is one of the best films I've ever seen. Road to Perdition.
Oh,
movie is so good.
Yeah, for sure.
That the tension between both sides when it finally comes to a head, where Paul Newman's screaming at Tom Hanks, he's like, "There's only murderers in this room. Like, how can you sit there and like judge me
No,
for killing somebody?" You know what I mean? Like
and
it's
the Thomas Newman soundtrack,
and the music is gorgeous. The music is gorgeous.
Nobody heard about Thomas Newman before this movie, and then now, like whenever he does a movie, I'm like, I gotta listen to that soundtrack. He's so good in that movie.
Number 2 is Goodfellas, because what was done in that movie was never done before. You don't stop on a frame and talk over it while the movie is going on before that movie.
Not even that. It humanized.
That movie made that okay to do all of a sudden, but it was a risk, and it was something that Scorsese said, "I'm doing it."
The difference between Goodfellas and Godfather is you actually laughed with these guys while they did bad deeds, versus Godfather was everybody was hard, but nobody's funny per se. I mean, maybe funny. you can say James Caan, but
no,
Goodfellas, like funny. Ray Liotta was funny. I mean, obviously,
Joe Pesci's hilarious.
Joe Pesci's hilarious. Robert De Niro is even funny. Like, they're all funny, but they humanized it.
They're wise guys.
Yeah, they were wise guys. That's what made that
style of creating that film and directing that film.
Yeah.
He took incredible chances and made the second best gangster movie of all time. And the first one is a combination of Godfather 1 and 2. You can't say it's not the best films ever.
And going back to the Goodfellas. Obviously, if people aren't familiar with my career, I've actually done several interviews with real life mobsters and gangsters and all that, and they all say, we always ask these questions, is what movie is best portrayal of the life? And 10 times out of 10 they say Goodfellas. They say Goodfellas, it's crazy. They thought Martin Scorsese was in the life, how well he told the story. But 10 times out of 10, I've interviewed, not me personally, but I've been involved in the productions of over 10 mafia interviews, and every number 1 is always Goodfellas when it comes to accurate portrayal of the life. And yeah, it's insane. So, Drew, what do you got?
I am starting number 5 with a little bit off the beaten path.
Good.
Actually, a comedy.
As we expected from you, Drew.
Comedy and very loosely a gang movie, but I'm gonna go Bottle Rocket.
Ooh, Wes
Anderson, and like a pretty loose definition, but one of the most pathetic gangs you've ever seen, but nonetheless, hilarious. Obviously Wes Anderson's beginning.
Bottle Rocket? I don't think I've ever seen that.
No, I've heard good things, Pete. We both got to watch that.
Drew, it's his first film, right?
Wes Anderson's first film.
I'm gonna watch it.
Debut of the Wilson brothers. It's sneaky. One of the best people in the whole thing is the third Wilson brother. If you've not seen the film, he has an amazing role as like
third Wilson brother.
Oh my god,
he's the other Manning of the group.
His friend
Cooper Wilson.
He's Cooper.
Yeah. It's so, and he's great in it. He's his future man. Anyway, it's a great movie. You got to see it. And
love that.
Alonso there for me. Number 4, deviating away from the poor Italians get all of the heat, but Eastern Promises. We can shout out the Russian mafia.
Oh yeah, that was on the list.
So that one is very dark.
Yeah.
So it is. It's tough, but it's interesting because it's a kind of a different take on the trope, so to speak. And Mortensen is amazing.
Yeah.
And Pete, that's your boy. He did Crimes of the Future.
Crimes of the Future.
Yeah, which is Pete's favorite film of the year.
Movie of all time.
Pete's favorite film of the year.
If you haven't seen it, consider yourself lucky.
And fans, if you've not seen Pete's review of Crimes of the Future, tune in just to merely listen to Pete rant.
Really bad.
It's a new movie?
It came out
this
May.
year.
Okay.
It came out in May. It was like our number
Vigo.
3,
Vigo's
our
in it.
third podcast.
I love Vigo, and he's great in this one.
You should go and see it. You're going to love it.
Okay.
It's not as bad as Pete says.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
I was trying to get away from back into sort of the Italian stuff, but I was trying to get away from Scorsese
You're trying to lose
diversity.
Okay,
You're trying to add some diversity to this.
Trying to lose the point, but go ahead.
No, Mean Streets.
Oh, no. Yeah, that was high. That's high on the
good.
list.
Yeah.
It's early.
This
Keitel,
first movie. Yeah.
I gotta watch that. I haven't seen that.
I've only watched it twice, and it's been a while, but it's so good. It left a major impression on me. Leads me into Goodfellas. Again, we're all debating the same ones. We're talking about the same two. Goodfellas is on that, probably my top 10 of movies that changed my life in terms of like, it just made such an impression on me. Perfect film from start to finish. The obviously the main players in there, but like Paul Sorvino's character, like just the whole movie's amazing. And then Godfather 2, however you want to.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, my list is probably like pretty similar. I definitely have one that none of you guys mentioned. Kind of surprised because it's more of a modern film. But so I'm with Pete. Number 5, I put Road to Perdition. I think when it just comes to classic filmmaking, this film has it all. Like the music, the cinematography, just
acting.
Different character arcs. Because Tom Hanks, we hadn't seen him really in a dark film. But I really love Road to Perdition.
Even the way that they made
Paul Newman
and Tom Hanks's character, like how they related to each other just at the piano, that scene alone it's
an amazing
everything
film
that you needed to know about the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 4, and honestly, I had Boys in the Hood here at number 4, but I put this because I feel like this trumped Boys in the Hood, and it's Training Day. And again, this is Denzel Washington won Best Actor for it, and this movie kind of like, this is a real life story for a lot of us, and especially like with the Biggie stuff coming more to light, like the rape art scandal is such a huge black mark. And this is like, especially us living in Los Angeles, it's one of the biggest stories, and it's still underrated because a lot of people still don't understand like what the real impact of the Rampart stuff was.
Real shit, man.
And it's like, you want to talk about criminal underbelly, the Los Angeles Police Department was the highest. I mean, they were gang members acting as police department, and
not too long ago either. Shit,
and not too long ago. And so I had Boys to Men as my number 4. Or I'm sorry, Boys to Men. Boys in the Hood. Yeah, to the end of the road. I had Boys in the Hood as my number 4, but I had to put Train Day because I do watch Training Day more. So I'm
glad you didn't say Boys and the Men, because that would have been
that would be terrible.
Really bad.
Thank you, Peter. My number 3 was Goodfellas for everything we've already talked about. My number 2, and nobody even put it on our list, is Pulp Fiction, the movie Why We're Here. Again, like it humanized gangsters, and it's just a different look on gangster films. But yeah, this is the movie we're watching, Pulp Fiction, number 2, and then of course number 1 I think is The Godfather. It's the film that, again, gangsters were afraid of to even be on film, and they try to make it stop it, and it's for sure number 1. But
that was the first time that it humanized gangsters, just like the way that Tarantino humanizes people in his film. You know what I mean? Like that's what The Godfather did.
Yeah. So that's our top 5. So I'm gonna give just because of pure creativity, I'm gonna give Drew the point on this one. Drew,
dude,
honestly, Drew,
I had Road to Perdition.
I know you were close, but Drew, honestly, again, and you mentioned it before, Drew just knows more about film, Pete. So
no, he doesn't. He just doesn't.
He was just creative on his list, and I want to reward creativity. I want to, sometimes he gets knocked off points because he's creative, but today
I'm just gonna name some random classic movie and then get the points.
Yeah, well, you gotta have a good explanation too. So, anyways, guys, so we got to move through. This is gonna be an 8-hour podcast. This is gonna be literally the length of The Godfather if we don't speed this up. So let's get through these next 5 scenes because we still have another list. So Ma the Meatloaf, scene that makes you laugh or feel good. Pete, I think we're starting with you. Yes.
Sure, and I'll make it quick. The funniest scene. I mean, there's a million. There's so many funny scenes. However, the one that always just makes me laugh the most is the cleaning up the car at the end. Uh, you know, this is some fucked up, repugnant shit. What a great line! Like, how do you write that? Like, who writes that line? And then the performances are just great.
I mean, it feels like Samuel Jackson's saying the line. Like, it doesn't feel like it was written for him.
No, it's just he was just totally in the moment. He's like, this is some fucked up. Yeah, it was just, and even the leading up to that moment with Harvey Keitel and Quentin Tarantino and that whole, like, it's just so funny. But that actually, when they're cleaning the scene, I'm always laughing along with the rest of the movie, because the movie, I would make an argument, is a comedy. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, Drew, you're up next. What do you got?
It's probably, I don't know. I was gonna say the Harvey Keitel scene. I'm gonna go with that scene, but I'm gonna go with towards the tail end of it, after they've cleaned up and now they're cleaning up themselves, and they're in the UC Santa Cruz Banana Slug shirt.
Oh yeah.
They're in the clothes, even before they get to that, and they're like gonna hose him off, and like the joy that Quentin Tarantino's character takes from like them being sprayed.
He's like
getting
spray.
Yeah. Quentin Tarantino's many things, great actors not among them.
No, he's not a good actor at all.
It's like the most real he is. It's like
I don't think he's bad.
Like, to me, it's just
Silly.
like, genuinely as the man behind this entire thing, laughing at the fact that he gets to spray these two down with the hose, and they're like shivering and like it. I don't know. It's not the wittiest dialogue at all in the movie, but it makes me laugh every time.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I don't care. Like, I actually appreciate more that it's him, because I always love cameos.
Yeah,
done right. And to me, that was a perfect director cameo, and it was a perfect role where it's not, like you're saying, I don't need him to act very well in it. I need him to just, like, make me laugh. And I think that's exactly
laughing at himself, like getting to.
But I just love the way he's pointing his finger, and he's just like, yeah, keep washing over there. Yeah. That was good. I love that scene.
It's one of the one Tarantino roles that he does that I didn't cringe over.
Yeah.
I thought he was excellent in it.
Even the coffee scene where he's like, I don't need you to tell me how good the coffee is. You know what I mean? Like,
I love that scene. I thought that
so
was
good. That scene.
That scene gets funnier because it's just it's so Tarantino. Like, I don't need you to tell you how good the coffee is. I know the coffee is because I bought it. Like, who writes?
Yeah, but he does that. He does that scene, which by itself would have been great. That would have been a great scene. But then he has to push it. He's got to push you and go, did you notice a sign outside? You know, he's got to go to that next level. You know what I mean? Like, he's got to do it. It would have been a great scene, a perfect scene with just the coffee reference. But he's got to go a little bit further every time.
All right, John Mayer, what do you got?
GB.
Oh man, you know my scene, the adrenaline shot scene. We talked about it earlier. It's just, I just know every time I watch a movie with someone new, man, or just my feelings in the theater when like the whole audience gasped in the theater, like when you hear the thump or I gotta stab her 3 times, you know, and they're just debating, like the whole set of everyone seems in tune, and that, who was it, Trudy, the homie in the background, the friend, like everyone's like in it, just. You believe they're fucking fucked up on whatever the drug is, somewhere on heroin, somewhere just smoking some weed, you know. But everyone's into in their own different ways. And they're intrigued by this fucking person who's about to die, a couple of them. You see Vince freaking out for his life. It's just cool. Like when that adrenaline shot hits, though, and you see her pop up, you're almost relieved. And I explained this earlier, right? When you watch this with new people and you kind of just peel away for someone who's never seen the movie and watch them take that scene in, and then watch that final moment in the scene and then see their relief and just see how they could fucking breathe out. Because you fall, by that time in the movie, you've already fallen in love and been charmed by John Travolta's character as Vincent.
No,
so you don't want the motherfucker to die. Like, so to see him come back, like you're just relieved and into it and like, hell yeah, dude, this shit made it. And then everyone talked about that. I remember when that movie came out, like everyone was talking about so many scenes, but that one was just one was like, dude, in the adrenaline scene, like, fuck, man, is that real? Like, everything that goes in that scene. But I challenge everyone, watch this movie with someone that's never watched it and look at their face during that scene. You're going to see them come back and get relieved, just like her coming back to life.
John putting down the gauntlet on that one. I like that.
Yeah.
So my scene, it's pretty similar to both Pete and Drew's, but it's literally when they're just talking and John Travolta just blows his head off again. Like we've never seen anything like
Marvin.
that. And
he must have hit a bump or something.
Blew his head off, and
He just shot Marvin in the face.
reacting. And I remember initially seeing that, and you're just being kind of caught off guard because you're like, wow, someone actually
you do one of those classic. Oh my God!
It was just so unexpected but
totally unexpected.
Great. And again, it actually drives the story, which is even more brilliant. But
yeah,
I would just kind of claim that whole sequence in general because I think that whole everything after that point is just absolutely hilarious. All the way up to again, Drew's talking about the shower. But I'm gonna give the point to John Bear. Just
what
John was the most passionate about the scene, and he cares. John cares more than all of us.
Okay. Hold on. Note to self: more words equal points. Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, you should talk. You're literally
rant, banter.
Yeah. So guys, if you're keeping track, which a lot of people aren't, Pete 2, Drew 3, John 2. So again, we have a
Drew pulling away.
Well, he didn't pull away. He still has the same score as he did a second ago. But John actually made this a game again. But anyways, next we have line.
Hold on a second, because John, that was like one of the most brilliant scenes ever. I would definitely give you that point.
Honestly, more of his explanation, because remember, John already kind of blew his load on that one.
No, he blew his load already. But I mean, even like
it was
when John Travolta was like, "Well, what's going to happen?" and Eric Stoltz was like, "I'm kind of curious about that myself." It's one of the funnier lines in the movie itself. It's a great scene.
Awesome. So with that, our next category is line, please. What's your favorite quote? And guys, let me tell you, like, if there's not one category that's made specifically for this movie, it's this movie. And fuck, that's all I gotta say. It's hard to pick just one.
It's tough.
It's tough.
But that's what our job is. And so, yeah, we're starting with Drew on this one.
All right. So, yeah, a million to choose from. I just talked about how Samuel L. Jackson's the greatest hit maker from this movie. And I could choose 20 of his. But I think I'm going to go, it's kind of like underrated, but also a great quote. Like we actually just kind of talked about it, is after in the car, after he blows Marvin's head to smithereens and just so calmly, so like, dang it. Like, I screwed this one up. Like, oh man, I shot Marvin in the face. Just like how much you just like, I dropped an M&M, but like, oh, man, I love it. Delivery's perfect. It's so absurdly everything in the movies is overstated in terms of the way they talk. It's so understated for like the severity of what happened. Yeah. The blood splatter in the back. Oh man, I just
shot Marvin in the face.
What do you mean you shot Marvin in the face?
Yeah.
John Bear, what do you
got? Well, it's the long line. I mean, favorite quote. It's Ezekiel 25:17. I can't do it justice, so I ain't gonna try to read the line. But the fucker goes into, there's a passage I got memorized. Seems appropriate for the situation. Ezekiel 25:17. He just goes off on the path of the righteous man. It's beset of all sides. We all know it. I can't do it like him. And at the end,
Did you guys hear too? Like that was he actually is not quoting a real Bible.
It's not a real verse.
No, it's not a real verse.
Something that came out of another movie or a book or something?
No, it's a combination of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you won't know my name as the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon you. Come on.
It's just a combination of brilliant writing by Tarantino and then the brilliant performance of, who else could have pulled off that scene besides Samuel L. Jackson?
I think to John's point too, the brilliant part of it is the fact that it's actually not a real quote. And I think it just goes to like the human kind of like fallacy of like, oh, let me tell you like the best quote, because so many people, how many people do we know? We're like, oh, let me give you a quote. And it's like this, that, and the other. And it's like, do we actually know if that's a real quote or not? Like how many people quote Shakespeare and it's not actually like a Shakespeare quote?
Mark does.
You said Mark Mead?
Shakespeare.
Mark Mead does all the time. That's all he quotes.
But I think that's, again, I don't know if Tarantino did that highly intentionally or if it's just like we'll let it slide type thing. But to me, I want to feel like he did it on purpose because he's that smart. And it's like, yeah, let me just throw out a quote, and I bet nobody will even. I bet there'll be a few people that contradict it, and most people will just go along with it.
No, because religious people weren't going to go and see Pulp Fiction on opening night. You know what I mean? Who's going to debate it?
Yeah,
well, that's not real cool.
Ezekiel said.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Ezekiel.
No, I think that's the brilliant of it, because I'm almost positive he purposely, because again, he's smart enough to look at the quote itself and do it. I'm almost positive he did it on purpose and like, let me just get close or let me get something, but this is what I want to say. Because again, like to me, that's also like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right? Like that's that same premise of like, here's what should have happened, but this is what I want to write. And that's that creative freedom that he takes. So anyways, so Pete, you're up.
The best line of the movie is one that I've done every day since this movie came out, and it starts off with just a response and then a variation of the actual line, which is this is a tasty burger. Because my son, 2.5, making me eat something, goes because I do it with him every single day. It's one of the funniest things, and he probably just wrote "This is a tasty burger" in the script, but when Samuel Jackson took a bite of that Big Kahuna burger, which looked that Big Kahuna burger looked phenomenal. It's a bite into it. He's like, it's just overemphasized. Just that's the best line of the film.
I love it.
I love that film. My pick is when he's like, Marcellus, tell me something that's going to make me feel better about this whole situation, right? Now, obviously, I'm paraphrasing here. And he's like,
you're gonna use the word you're not allowed to use.
Oh, yeah, that's all you had to say.
Like, shit, yeah. That's all you had to say.
Yeah. It was
okay.
It's coming.
It's so good. That is
a great line.
His delivery is amazing. Marcellus, his interplay with Marcellus is perfect.
I'm gonna give the point to Pete on this one because I agree with him. Every time I'm tasting something, I'm like, yeah, awesome. All right, cool. So we got Pete.
Can I just say one thing? I've already won the point, and I'm gonna just add to it real fast. One of the funniest subtle moments in the movie. When Jules and they're talking with Quentin Tarantino about how good the coffee is, the thing that makes me laugh, I think the most out of this whole movie is when Harvey Keitel finally he gets his coffee and he takes a sip and he turns back, he goes, and then he turns back and they continue the scene. It's brilliant. It's brilliant because he built up that whole thing
100%.
for just him to say, that's it.
Harvey Keitel.
I don't need to
start.
The coffee is. I know how good the coffee is because I bought it.
But for the wolf to acknowledge that his coffee is awesome.
Yeah, but that's good.
Then Tarantino's face, you can just see his lips. He's like laughing because it's like hilarious for him. It's one of my favorite scenes. I laugh every time.
It's really good writing. It's really, really good writing. Okay, so we have Pete 3, Drew 3, John 2. So obviously we have an action-packed game here going into the 8th inning, I want to say. So our next category is great shot. Your favorite shot in the film, and I think there's going to be a couple.
That's a lot, man.
This may just be who first gets to it, but
there's tons.
John Bear's first, no?
Start with John Bear on this one, yeah.
Ooh, is it me? I wonder if I can get to my shot. I think I have the shot queued up. I don't know how to get to it. My favorite shot is not a prototypical shot, but it is my favorite. Let's see. It is right there. It's a white shot. Jackrabbit Slims. White shot. Let's scoot over here.
I mean, we see it, John. You don't have to.
Yeah, very simple.
We know the shot.
There's epic moments in this film. Plenty of them. But this is just a personal favorite to me, just the whole Jackrabbit Slims restaurant. I want this restaurant to really exist, man. Just all the serving staff there, the dialogue that takes place in this scene, and all the motherfuckers getting a dance contest.
Come back close to the mic,
she pulls up on stage, gets in the dance contest with him, and just that scene is an epic dance sequence to me. And I just love the innocence of this, of just humans having fun. Like, you take away all the gangster-esque of this film and what they're doing in life, and the fact that they're both addicted to some pretty hardcore drugs, but they just get out there to fucking dance and have a good time like some kids. And I love this wide shot of Jackrabbit Slims where you encompass the whole thing. So it's just my favorite.
Yeah, that's pretty solid, John Bear. Pete Dog, what do you get?
That's a great one. Even when they go into the over the shoulders of them dancing individually, but then the way Tarantino brings them together while they're dancing, it was really, really it's a great scene. 100%.
It's iconic. I mean, that's if you had to pick a scene that most people remember, it's the dancing scene.
The dance scene for sure. Yeah. I went with a shot that it's not innovative by any stretch, but it was really important to the scene. And I thought the way that he did it really amplified what he was trying to portray. So when at the beginning of the film, when Jules and they've been talking about Mia and all this stuff about foot massage and all this stuff, they get to the door, and Drew touched on this earlier, but this is one of my favorite shots of the film. When they go off, he's like, look, it ain't time yet. Let's hang back and wait. And they walk off. The camera doesn't move with them. The camera doesn't change positions. It just stays there.
Yeah.
And they all walk towards the end of the hallway, and they start talking, and John Travolta's making his point. And at the end of it, he's like, yeah, that's a really good point. But the way that he just kept them, he let them go and do their thing and let the audience kind of stay where they are and experience what they're doing at the time. Then they come back and actually handle business. I thought it was one of the more powerful scenes that really opened up the movie.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah, that's solid. Drew, what do you got?
I love the scene where, right after the one just referenced, where Marcellus is reassuring Jules that the wolf is on his way, and then it cuts to like my grandma's house in Reseda, and all these people milling about. It looks like a wake or something, and into the scene, like he's sitting on the oak furniture with the bedspread, and the over the shoulder, while the wolf is like taking down the facts, and like the notes are so funny, like the address obviously, and it's like Vincent white, Jules
White.
black,
Yeah.
Black.
one body, no head.
Yeah.
It's looking over,
That's so good.
and then he's like, it's a 30-minute drive. I'll be there in 10.
I'll be there in 10.
And then the car, and then right into the car, zooming up like 9 minutes, 37 seconds later. Laugh out loud, funny. Perfect introduction to Keitel. So good.
That's so good, too.
Stole that point. John Bear had that point.
John Bear had it, and
You just stole that point. That was a good job.
you just stole it. Damn it.
So the scene I have in terms of shot, and again, like we mentioned it about like power, but it's when it's at the end when the two like racist white guys are like debating on who they're picking, and the way he does the camera, you're unsure. They're like, and it is meeny miny mo, blah blah blah. It's you. And the way they frame it, you think it's actually Bruce Willis at first, and then it's just like this kind of awkward movement, and you're just like, oh, snap.
I know.
And
But when he stops the camera, he's here, and there's all this space over here.
yeah,
It is really, really brilliant. Yeah,
It's-
that's a good one.
weirdly brilliant. It's weirdly brilliant is the best way I would explain it. And but you feel the impact of the camera moving. You're like, oh snap, because you kind of think that it's gonna be Bruce Willis.
But the eeny meeny thing Tarantino does in a few films, you know what I mean? Like he's done that in a couple of his films where
Breaks
he'll bounce back and forth, but he never does what he did in Pulp Fiction, like you're saying.
Yeah,
It's really good. That's a good one.
And the other one I would just, I'm actually surprised John Bear didn't nominate it, because John Bear would have won if he did. Would have been the scene he's already talked about and praised 17 times already, but it's
Uncomfortable silence.
No, it's the adrenaline scene where
Yeah.
it cuts back and then it's five shots in one, and then it's the rays, it's the blade, it's all these different moments, and everybody it's a tense moment, and you really don't know how it's gonna happen at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it's cut and the way it's shot is brilliant,
Yeah,
and
man.
And
it's definitely one of the things that stood out. I'm just like, man, that's just classic good filmmaking right there. So
The stoner girl on the couch that never moves.
Trudy.
yeah, no, it's so good.
hey, Drew, you're a movie aficionado, along with Paul. One of my favorite shots, quote unquote shots, not scenes that are like really cool that we've been talking about, but actual shots, is the point of view of the trunk coming up. Was that done? That was done in Goodfellas, yes? Was it done anywhere else? I mean, because Tarantino's famous for that sort of point of view shot from the person
Yeah, it
inside
had
of the
to have
trunk
been.
kind of thing,
I feel like Henry Hill does it in Goodfellas for sure.
Yeah,
right?
I wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
differentiate it.
That's
But
why I didn't say it, but it's such a really great shot.
yeah,
Anyways, let's move forward.
great shots. Anyways, so like I mentioned before, Drew gets the point, so he has the lead. So it's
Okay.
Pete 3, Drew 4, John 2, and we have two categories left. So it's still anybody's ball game. So this one's the tough one, guys. This director's chair. What will we change? I have one small note on that.
I've got two notes.
Okay. So I'm super curious here what your thoughts are. I have one note because, yeah, it actually, and I noticed this time, and it's.
But don't say it because you're not on the panel.
You want me to start? I just
No, because
Sounds
you
like
might
you're gonna start.
one of
Sounds like
our
you-
points.
Oh yeah.
The thing that always bugged me about this film, the one thing, even though I have two things, the one thing that bugged me about this film was that the intensity of that opening scene where like, hey, you fucking pricks move and I'll execute every motherfucking last one of ya. That's the opening scene. At the end, she screams and she's like, and I'll execute every one of you motherfuckers. It's different. And it always bothered me.
Interesting.
Why wouldn't he have made the
Interesting.
beginning, the bookmarks of this film? Why wouldn't he make those the same?
No, you're right.
It's always bugged me every time I see it that she says the line differently at the end. And at the end, it's even more intense than at the beginning. The beginning is just an intro. At the end, you're already in that Jules and Vincent Vega world. They're now a part of this robbery. Why would you change it like that? It's such a mind fuck. It ruined a lot of
Interesting.
seconds for me because that's all it took. And then I'm back loving it again.
All right. Drew, what do you got?
It's hard. I was gonna say, well, I don't want to take it from John Boy. So what I'll say is,
Your turn, so you're not taking
I
anything.
know,
Go
no,
for it.
Anything.
no, I was gonna mention two, but that's not fair.
No, just mention one.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So I'm not gonna take two.
Mention your top one, and then you can mention your second one if nobody mentions it.
Perfect. Fabian as a character.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I really wanted, because Bruce Willis grew on me rewatching this. Like, I always felt like his part of it was, what's that?
I thought he was fantastic in this.
He's great. No, but
So
like
good.
for some reason it just didn't. His character didn't resonate with me as much years ago. But
Yeah.
I enjoyed his character a lot more this time, and so I was hoping that I would like her more. And I don't know if it's the actual actress or it's her, but
I'm with you.
Mine as an actress, I think they're
I'm
right.
with you.
she's just it's to me it's like the most expendable character. Like, he could have, if we wanted this movie to be a little bit shorter, could have cut out almost all of her. Don't need her for forgetting the watch. He could have just forgotten the watch.
I agree 100%.
Out. She's out for
Damn.
I want a little pot belly.
But you wanted to have some pot?
Very astute points. John Bear, what do you got?
It's tiny. Most people won't even pick up on it, but it's Uma Thurman in the bathroom at Jack Rabbit Slim's, and it's a great quote because everyone knows the quote when she comes up.
Damn.
God damn. But you got about 4 or 5 people around her, and not one of them breaks character. Because I don't care where you're at. I've been in some pretty crazy fucking spots in my life in restaurants with fucking yay being busted out or some coke, and someone's gonna react. But all of the characters, all the women around her, are just straight face looking, so in a mirror, and cool. I know it's supposed to. I don't know
where they didn't react,
but one person goes to react with the fact that she's in the middle of them fucking busting a rail, coming back up and doing her thing. And even if they don't give a fuck too much, she busts out the line so amazing, you get a small reaction. So I just wanted one of them chicks around her just to be like, damn, this girl really just fucking busting a rail right here. It's tiny.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, so I have a different one than everybody else. And again, I'm just going to speak my thoughts and then correct me. Because I feel like if you guys didn't mention this, maybe I'm the oddball in this one. But so I was very in tune with the story. I didn't understand. What I didn't understand is, so the end obviously ends, it begins with the diner scene, ends with the diner scene. But before that, it obviously Vincent dies. How does Vincent and Samuel Jackson get separated? Why is so? Remember when Bruce Willis goes back to his house and he shoots Vega, Jackson in that scene.
So why did they separate? Okay.
Why did they ever get separated? And I thought maybe there would be. I thought maybe because again I'm rewatching it for the first time almost, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe the end scene will be like they separate, and then that's what kind of again divine intervention, all that stuff. Like they don't. He actually never finishes the divine intervention type thing, and then like at the end they're still together, and then I'm just it's like we forgot Bruce Willis's part, so Bruce Willis never really reconnects to the final scene.
No, that's,
I don't know.
It's interesting because it's almost it's a timeline issue in a way, because my other issue was, why was Vincent, who was dressed in the other clothes, why was he such a dick to Bruce Willis's character at the bar at the beginning of it, but he's killed in his black suit again, right? Like, why? Yeah. Like, how does that timeline work out? Like, if he's already in his clothes, that means a lot of that movie has already happened. It's confusing, right? So
I don't understand where the Bruce Willis
thing. Why was he such a dick to him?
Well, I still don't understand where it's. Again, if the movie ends with them, like they show the backstory, but where does Marcellus and all that Bruce Willis stuff? I mean, obviously it has to happen after, but why is it before and not after? I don't know. I just didn't understand that.
So the Bruce Willis getting killed,
this movie more than
killing John Travolta had to happen after the ending of the movie. But when did Travolta change back into his thing, and why did Jules not go with him?
I mean he said he's going to leave, but they never actually showed that scene,
right?
I don't know. I thought that was kind of a flaw. And by the way, I think it's an easy flaw to fix. I think it's
if you had to find a flaw, then fine.
And I guess maybe don't care at that point, but I don't know. Like it really bugged me when I watched it this time. I'm like,
that's okay. I mean, I think at this point you just tie me up with Drew at 4, right? Is that what we're doing?
I should win the contest after that because I destroyed all of you guys right now. I'm just curious. This didn't bother you guys?
No, because I was thinking.
No, it always bothered me. That was my other one.
There was a speaking point though for years when that movie came out, was the fact that people discussed those moments in the timelines, and it kind of gave it something new. You know, it was a nuanced piece that people discuss and like kind of just breeze over, like, oh, that's part of it. It's the editing. You're supposed to confuse. This is what happened. I remember these debates taking place from day one.
No, it always made me upset that he was wearing those clothes, but then all of a sudden he was in his suit again and he gets killed. But
my mind went when it cut back to the scene, because we hadn't seen Jules yet. I thought it was just going to be Jules alone in the diner, and like that's how it ended, so that it would all happen before that. And Jules was like you're saying, like kind of in that retirement phase, and like his buddy just got shot. I thought maybe that's where it all fit in, but they didn't do that. And to me, that would have been the easy fix. But they still had John Travolta come back. So to me, it's like they almost made it more difficult.
Yeah.
They could easily, like, if John Travolta's not in that last scene, right? Does that how much does that change what we're talking about? Like, not really any, right? Like, his character already kind of fulfilled his arc. Samuel Jackson's already kind of on his way out, and then he kind of gets brought back in because he still has to kill, Tim Roth's character. But I don't know. I thought that was an easy kind of fix, but again, I'm not so engulfed in this film like you guys are.
I'll watch it again because I love it, but I don't ultimately have a problem with it. I think it can be explained. I think you have to look at it deeper.
I think it's a easy solvable problem.
Yeah, I think if you watch it more times, you might pick up, and this is just me spitballing.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll pick up on something that actually explains, because I mean that's how Tarantino thinks, right? So maybe there's an explanation somewhere. We just haven't picked up on it yet. I don't know.
Only line that makes sense is that
you're allowed one flaw for a movie. That's the rule of Hollywood.
The only line that makes sense is Samuel Jackson says, I'm out. Like, this is my last thing. But again, when you're talking like when you cut back and forth,
But
Mm-hmm.
you have to have connection with your characters in terms of like consistency. And so
I think you just explained your point, though.
Consistent to have them in the last.
I agree with John.
You just explained your point, because you got to remember the diner scene is like the day that they pay off Butch to throw the fight, and when Vince gets killed, it's way out. It's after the fight by like a day or two.
Couple days, yeah, like maybe a day or two.
No, I get that.
Maybe the next day.
Samuel's
So
gone, but
my issue becomes they never
At
closed.
that point, Sam Jackson's already gone to go
So
walk to Earth.
and so my point is they should have ended with Samuel Jackson.
I'm a
That would have made it
Earth.
more clear.
got it. Okay, I can see what you're saying.
So I'm okay with that, but why doesn't it end with Samuel Jackson's retirement? Because basically everyone else gets screwed besides him.
Yeah,
I mean, like Marcel's already got raped.
Yeah, but he's the one that actually ultimately comes to some sort of a clarity, right? Like he's the one that
That's
actually
what I'm trying to
evolves.
make, which is why
So
it end on him.
why would you in this film? There's no
because
reason to end on
you're
a
gonna send a hitman back to his house just in case he shows up.
there's no reason
that
to end on a high note on this film.
in the letter.
No, but I'm talking about Peter's arcs. So
have you tried to email? Oh, okay.
But like you just said, Pete, how does the audience benefit ending in that diner scene?
Probably only
Because
because
we've
it's the
seen-
first scene
Hold
of the movie.
on, let Drew talk.
No. We've seen both of these characters evolve, even though we're now at the beginning of the movie again. We've seen these characters evolve to the point where them putting those guns into their goofy shorts at the end of the movie and walking off into the sunset is a classic ending to this film. It's a perfect ending to this film. You can't end this
It is.
with a shot of Sam Jackson being, walking the earth, doing all. We assume that as an audience member, you assume that because he's actually transcended something.
You're diminishing the rape scene because how powerful that was.
The rape scene has nothing to do with the ending.
100% it does.
How so?
Because there's like we just said, there's
The rape scene is between Marcellus
away
and
from this
Slick.
film in the sun. So you want to talk about the sunset? There's only one.
And Zed.
There's only one character that walks away out of the sunset, and it's Samuel Jackson.
Yes, but you get that impression based on how he
And you know how you could
asserted himself on Tim Roth. At the very end of that movie, the way that he asserted himself, you knew that he had already sort of elevated himself to the point where you didn't need to see him walk off.
Stop talking. Let me tell you how you end it. It's him eating a big Kahuna burger at the end. You don't even say anything. It's just him. I'll take one Kahuna burger. Boom. That's it.
No, that's dumb.
That's not Tarantino style, though.
That's dumb. Why would you? Why would you cap it off? You don't need to cap off a Tarantino film. You don't need to add a little bit of extra at the end to make you feel good as an audience member. This is the way I'm ending the film.
Story having an ending because we don't know what his ending was.
The ending of the film is John Travolta gets killed by Bruce Willis.
That's not the end of the film. That happened in the middle of the end of the second act.
Okay, but chronologically, linear thinking, what's the ending of this film? With the footage that you've seen in Pulp Fiction, what's the end of the film? Him riding off, Bruce Willis riding off.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's after the rape.
Yeah.
No, Bruce Willis drives off with Fabian after the rape.
But they don't
on the motorcycle.
There's no ending then.
Right.
Okay, so that's the ending of the film.
But it's not John Travolta getting killed because there's a lot after.
Yeah, I agree. Pete, by the way, you just lost your argument.
Okay. Not really.
But
you're asking for a Hollywood ending.
I'm not
looking to a non-Hollywood film.
I'm looking for
you want a Hollywood ending to a non-Hollywood film. It's just not. It's not even a debate. The way this movie ended was perfect.
You don't think that's a good ending to this film?
What? What's a good ending to this film? Him ordering a big Kahuna burger? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I think it makes.
What if he eats a Royale with cheese? What if he's in France?
All of a sudden he's in France.
That's too schmaltzy. I think it's a perfect book. It's a perfect bookend. The beginning scene starts with the promise of violence, right? And it freezes right before this threat of violence that they're putting on the diner. Then you see all of this ultra violence for the entire film, goes back to the diner scene. Yes, it's not chronologically in order, but Jules has had his moment. He's talking about coming to terms with whatever's next in his life. And then of all of the people in the world, the two most violent guys in the world are able to de-escalate this pair that had promised violence at the beginning. And it ends. I mean, I think it's.
Meanwhile, Paul wants to see him eating fries in France somewhere.
No, but begin. Let's get creative. So what if he orders a Royale with cheese and then he gets shot and killed? Like you wanted a Tarantino ending?
But why would you need it? You don't need that.
Because this
final shot, you don't need it.
I think you guys are locked up in the lore of things. Like this is not a good ending. Like if you think it's a good ending, I think you're just wrong.
Okay.
Because it's
Anybody else on the panel think that the ending of this movie was bad?
Yeah, because it's non-poetic. It's great the fact that he ends it like a Tarantino movie.
Thank you.
We don't need to closure.
You think it's a bad ending?
Pass.
I'm gonna wait till he awards points.
I knew it.
Just say yes or no. Was the movie a bad ending? Yes or no?
No, it's not a bad ending.
No, it's not a bad ending.
I think I just explained why I think it's
versus one, but whatever. Doesn't matter. Right?
Everything matters.
You want to add to a perfect film almost and figure out how you can make it better when it doesn't make sense to do so. Like this is the film.
Again, like I said, I think you guys like to hand passes out to Quentin Tarantino, but he's shown that
this is his
it's good.
This is his main film. Like that's like saying somebody's
what is his weakness?
Film that he should have done A, B, and
C. What is his weakness, Pete?
This is his breakthrough.
I'm not going to give him his pass. I'm going to tell you guys the other one that I was going to say. The N word throughout the movie is fine. It's Samuel L. Jackson, Quentin Tarantino's use of it when they come over in the storage. To me, like that's one part that has not aged well.
100%. I agree with that. Yeah.
So I'm not giving you a pass for that.
Give Drew the point. That's fine.
Yeah, Pete's not.
No, and the win.
That's not why I'm saying that. I'm just saying like I do think there are faults.
Just change the ending. What a comment.
I'm not in favor of that.
I changed the ending or Drew changed the ending?
No, you, Paul. I want to change the ending of this movie.
But Pete. You want to give a pass to a guy because he's a great director, but
no. I'm not giving a pass.
What is literally his weakness? Okay? What is literally his?
I'm talking about Pulp Fiction.
No, okay? I'm talking about Quentin Tarantino as a director. What is literally his weakness? His endings are his weakness. He is.
I don't agree with that even slightly.
Well, but I think that's the point. Is most
What does a great story and what does a great director do and what does a great film do at the end of the day? If it makes you ask questions afterwards, then it's done its job. I mean, who wants to be told everything and then that's the end of the movie? You need to be asking questions afterwards. So why would you answer a final question by having him eat a Big Kahuna burger at the end of the movie in France? That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
What if he got shot while eating the Big Kahuna burger? That still leaves more questions.
He gets told, okay, so you just throw in one more gratuitous shot. It doesn't make sense.
Story, doesn't it?
It doesn't make sense.
How does that make sense? It makes more sense what's happened?
No, come on. They are triumphant at the end of that film. They are triumphant, and they walk out of there.
Zero problems,
and then they continue to pursue what it is that you've already seen.
Question: Are you saying there's literally zero problems with the ending?
Yes, there's zero problems with the ending.
Okay,
the ending matches the style of the film, the story that was told in the film, the way that those two characters walk off out of that thing, thinking that they are on cloud nine because of what they just did and what happens afterwards that we've already seen. It makes perfect sense to end it there. We've already experienced everything that they've already gone through. So yeah, that's the perfect ending to the film. You started in the diner, you ended in the diner. You don't end it in France with a Big Kahuna burger. It's just so dumb. Bookend. It's the classic of every story. You bookend shit. You start here, you end here.
I would have liked that scene without John Travolta. If that was just
what?
Because I still don't understand. Again, I think this is a part of where, hey, look how smart I am sometimes. Let me see how creative I can be.
You wanted the final sequence to be without John Travolta in it?
Yeah, because he's already dead.
No, he's not.
It makes it magical, though. Oh,
but bacon tastes good.
All right, let's move forward to the next category.
Who gets the point? Does Pete get the point?
Just tell somebody who wins this thing. This is the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Okay, you can
change the ending of Pulp Fiction. This is so dumb.
But again, that's my biggest issue with Hollywood too. Like, it's the same thing. It's not the greatest ending. It's a great film.
Sure, that's his 9th film, but Pulp Fiction is it was done for a reason.
Struggles with the
second film.
He's not the,
you know what I mean?
Endings. That's literally what his MO is.
Wow, I don't even know what to say at this point. I don't know what to say.
You also don't like Crimes of the
Crazy.
Anyways, so we're gonna finish off with top 5 '90s films.
This was tough.
Gonna lose. So, point for the last one.
So he's at 5.
Yeah.
No, Drew already won. This is just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
Because how do you say top 5 '90s films? There's like 100.
No, this was definitely a struggle.
This is I can't.
All right, so we start with John then.
Yeah, I think John. We'll start with John.
All right, John. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, the easiest one at number 5 is Clueless. We all know what Clueless did to define the generation into the 90s and
Clueless.
Give us a peek into, the social scene in high schools and all the different, cliques. Dig it, 90. Thanks, Paul Rudd, for being an awesome big bro, step bro, and
that's right.
Alicia Silverstone.
He looks the same.
Being a charming little cutie. Cool movie, and it sounds like a joke, but I think it's one of those movies. I'm throwing in my top 5, and those probably shouldn't be there, but I just loved it, and it helped define a generation through film during that time. Yeah. Another funky one that there's plenty of films I know are way more valuable on the IMDb list or the AMC list, but I still like what Wes Craven did with Scream. So I'm going to throw Scream out there at number 4 because same thing. We're talking about redefining horror films. All of a sudden, he brings 100%. Comedy and lighthearted and in like true back and forth dialogue on how we communicate as 18 to early 20 somethings, and makes it a fun game, and pokes fun at himself and just a horror film classics in general. So pretty cool, funky film. I could easily go on list like all the big blockbusters and the critically acclaimed films, but I do like those 2 films for the 90s and what they did. I'll get a little funky on the next ones that are, prototypical, but there's so many to choose from. But I like Shawshank. I really like Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. for the reasons everyone speaks about it. Just the feeling of just those last 5 minutes and him going to the beach and everything that you go through in that film, pulling for Andy.
So wait, to be clear, John, you're saying the ending made you feel good. Okay, because apparently we don't like that.
Very nice. That's the appropriate ending for a linear movie. So yes, John,
linear.
you're right.
Linear versus
linear
non-linear
movie.
Yeah.
In linear storytelling, you end on a positive note.
Got it.
In a non-linear movie, however. Anyways, go on.
Homie Andy makes it, man. It's cool as shit.
This is what made this podcast great, guys. People
man, it's great.
do not agree with each other.
Number 2, John.
God, there's so many. I'm going with the ones that made me feel good. Forrest Gump. I dig Forrest at number 2, man. Just start to finish. It's a dream story. For especially Forrest in that portrayal, I think Tom Hanks does a great job portraying a character like that with that. You can't disability. You can't say disability anymore. No, there's better ways to say it.
Nobody called Forrest a disability except for you.
Yeah.
Nobody capable, John.
Capable. But I know there's more PC terms now. I have a son that's autistic. So I know I even get corrected now by some of the doctors that you can't even say autism anymore, John.
Yeah.
So, but it's cool to see this. This dude, grow up with the world and odds against him, and to make this run, and somehow you buy every minute of it and you believe it, and like at the end of it, you're like, fuck, that shit really could have happened, even though it's far fetched. You're like, man, this dude just had a fucking life, and you feel great and you believe it the whole way through. I think I was warm and tingly and up and down. Music soundtrack's amazing. The portrayals of all the fucking Bubba's amazing. There's goddamn restaurant after Bubba. Oh, gee damn it. After Bubba Gump's, it's just a cool movie. And then easy for me, number 1 is Pulp Fiction. For everything we're speaking about tonight, for the long-winded debate between two brothers of a movie that you could, for some reason, I'm really passionate about. Because I think it's fucking amazing, man.
Yeah.
It really, really is, and clearly number 1 in my heart from the 90s.
A movie that should have had a different ending.
Yeah. My number 1 movie.
All right.
I can't wait to hear your terrible list. Go ahead.
My list is a lot different, but kind of similar. The bookends, like in a great film, are the same. Number 5 for me is Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, because of the sort of the innovative way that they told the story and the way that they used CGI to bring him into these worlds. I thought it was innovative, and it had to be, and it beat Pulp Fiction for Best Picture, so it has to be actually on the list itself. Number 4 for me was Saving Private Ryan. I mean, I think it gave us our first glimpse into what real war would be like if you were experiencing it. I mean, how could you? I mean, if you were not there in battle in real life, I think this is the closest that you can get to it. I mean, I think it was innovative, and it really kind of brought what it meant to be into a war. Number 3 was The Matrix. The way The Matrix innovated the use of technology and storytelling and elevated everyone's approach to filmmaking. Number 2 for me is Shawshank. A very linear story. However, the amount of messages and life lessons that are portrayed in this film it's staggering. Get busy living or get busy dying. That's the most important line in the entire film, and it's true. I mean, what are you going to do today?
Yeah.
Are you going to sit here and die, or are you going to fucking live? Right? It's one of the best lines ever. Yeah. Number 1, Pulp Fiction. It's my favorite film out of the 90s, and it's incredible.
All right. Well, look, I mean, honestly, I can't argue with what you guys are saying. I think that's what makes this category so great is there's legitimately so many choices, and I can't argue not. I have some on my list that you guys don't have, but at the same time, I hated leaving some of these off that you guys mentioned.
Oh, there's a million.
Yeah. Drew, what do you got?
Braveheart? I didn't put Braveheart on there. How could I not do that? Drew, what do you got?
I forgot about Braveheart. They didn't even mention this, I saw.
I'm starting off with a comedy. I have Groundhog Day, which is
so good.
It's such a good movie. It's a phrase that is just
time travel movie, by the way.
That has entered sort of the lexicon. Is a Groundhog Day. Everybody in it, every single character. Andy McDowell's charming. Bill Murray, I know he's getting a bad rap nowadays, which is a bummer because I love him. He's just so funny. So funny. Ned, like all of it. Anyway, love that. And poor Chris Elliott getting kicked around. Next one for me was in a couple of your guys for the gangster movies, but I think it's just one of the best movies of the 90s and Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
I think when we're talking about all of the things that happened in the early 90s where we all grew up in the Los Angeles area, the rise of hip hop with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg in particular, West Coast hip hop, the Rodney King riots, all of that kind of bringing a much different look nationally for people around the country in what Los Angeles really is.
Well,
go ahead.
Let's be honest. It brought a lot of attention to the people in the San Gabriel Valley.
Sure.
And we're a 10-minute drive away from what's really going on. You know what I mean? It's like we're right there.
Yeah, we had gangs, but it was just like
we had gangs, but I mean, you put them up against anything like what was going on like in real life.
No, but my point is like Pete. I remember being like we couldn't wear Dodger hats anymore.
Couldn't wear colors at school.
Yeah, we couldn't wear colors at school. But okay, put those gang members in Monrovia up against any of these other guys.
Yeah, I'm not competing, Pete. You know, I guess in a game.
Come on, we had gang problems in Monrovia.
No, I'm not competing. But I'm just saying
there was some real shit going on, right?
The point I'm trying to make is how close it came to us was the fact that, again, like we had to change our apparel because of what was happening in LA, 15 miles out.
You were a Cardinals fan, so you couldn't even wear your red
hat.
Cardinals hat or nothing.
I couldn't wear a Dodger hat. You couldn't wear red or blue. Like,
right.
You had to wear neutral colors. Banned.
And yet we had no idea what was going on. None. Zero.
In 4th grade, we couldn't wear hats anymore because they're all gang symbols. Like, Kansas City was Crip Killers. You know what I mean? Like,
British Knights.
That was just growing up in LA. Anyway, Drew.
Yeah. All right, Drew, number 3.
Boys in the number 4. I have Fargo at my number 3.
Nice.
Brothers, Francis McDormand.
Beautiful script.
Yeah, William Macy, amazing. Francis McDormand,
amazing.
Francis McDormand, astonishing. She's so underrated. I mean, she's not because she's won 3 Academy Awards, but she's so incredible.
She's so underrated.
She's so underrated.
She's not under, but you know what I mean. She's not like a typical leading lady, but she's amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And Steve Buscemi, just great. I mean, all Fargo, love it. It's great. Schindler's List for sort of historical value and amazing film. Liam Neeson, the whole thing. I mean, it's just it speaks for itself. It's important and great and all.
Yeah. How could I not put it on my list? But then, fuck.
And then my last one, and it's probably controversial for number 1, but it's one of the movies that resonates the most with me from that decade. Maybe the best British film of the last 30 years, Trainspotting.
Oh,
wow.
To me, Trainspotting is so hilarious and heartbreaking, and the music's amazing, and it's gritty, and it's Danny Boyle getting cooking, Ewan McGregor kind of introducing him. Trainspotting is amazing. To me, very 90s. Talks about AIDS a little bit. Yeah. Got the drug stuff. Like
I've heard good things about that film.
No, Trainspotting is great. It's a tough watch at times, but it's a really well done film.
I'm more shocked that my top 5, 4 of them nobody mentioned. But again, I guess
so many. There's so many.
Yeah.
My list is like 50 long of movies I absolutely adore. I adore them.
So I try to combine heart versus like actually great crafting and like an impact. So I try to kind of combine all those. So
all right, let's hear this.
My number 5 is Home Alone.
Yes.
Like, that was so good. How do I not have Home Alone on my list?
Home Alone, like when it comes to comedies, when it comes to like, again, I watch it every year. Like
honestly,
the movie that maybe has more of an impact on me in the 90s.
A to D.
So I had to have that on my list, and I cut out basically. I'll give my honorable mention of this, but So my number 4 now, because I had to switch mine. My number 4 is Saving Private Ryan. Pete already mentioned it.
Yeah.
When you're talking about one of the greatest war films, but the D-Day scene is just it's unreal.
Yeah. Ugh.
My number 3 film is L.A. Confidential, which even in the 90s, that was one of my greatest films. Like I saw that I saw that when it came out, and it won Best Picture, and
That's not even on my honorable mention list.
Oh my God.
Number 3 of the 90s? Really?
Well, one Best Picture, Pete. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
yeah, okay.
It was
better than Tombstone? No.
Shit, it's Tombstone. Oh my goodness, I forgot Tombstone.
Yeah, it ain't better than Tombstone.
Honestly,
it ain't better than Unforgiven or Braveheart.
Oh my goodness.
Or
list.
I looked at 3 lists.
Tommy Boy.
I looked at 3 of those lists. Oh my goodness, I need to like amend what I'm saying right now.
Tommy Boy, so good.
I'm gonna throw out Saving Private Ryan. Tombstone's on my list.
Right?
Vecchio. Caparzo.
Are you changing your list on the fly?
I know. Unforgiven's probably on my list too.
Unforgiven, Braveheart, Independence Day.
Braveheart's my number 2. And then my number 1 is Good Will Hunting. I think literally that's maybe one of the greatest films of all time.
That's a great film.
It's good.
No,
not the number 1 film of the 90s, but it is a good film.
What?
It's great. It's great. The story behind it is awesome.
I literally named the story after it, John Bear.
It's good, but there's like I don't know. There's a big piece of society there's too many pieces of society that can't relate.
We did not mention, by the way.
I do like that film.
Silence of the Lambs.
Armageddon.
7.
Yeah.
6 Sense.
6 Sense. Beauty and the Beast. I'm not even kidding. Beauty and the Beast.
Toy Story.
Toy Story.
Oh, yeah.
Face Off.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually hate my own list. Like
Wayne's World.
I know. I saw Wayne's World.
Jurassic Park.
AP.
Jurassic Park wouldn't have made it, but
Fight Club. American History X. I mean,
the 90s. American History X was one that I wanted.
Yeah.
American History X. I wanted to put that in my gangster list.
Ed Norton.
Good Will Hunting, though, Paul.
History
Robin Williams. Robin Williams and Good Will Hunting is outrageous.
Guys, I'm probably not going to publish our 90s movies list because literally we all failed.
We all failed. Dumb and Dumber, The Fugitive.
There's so many.
The Fugitive was actually my number 5, and I actually cut that.
The Fugitive is so great. Truman Show.
There's Truman's in there.
I mean, there's so many great movies in the 90s. I mean, what are you going to do? Well, that's why this list is incredible.
This list kind of
self-destructed.
Yeah.
Boy, we all suck.
I will stand by my list.
I'm going to stand by my list too.
Boys in the Hood.
I don't stand by my list at all.
No. Paul, your list, let's be honest, is not good.
I'm gonna throw out Saving Private Ryan for Tombstone. Everything else,
there you go.
Confidential, I think is
any other one.
So much in this, like casinos in this, we forget. Like there's so much. Edward Scissorhands, like the Burton stuff, is in the 90s.
Goodfellas was in the 90s.
Top 5 though.
Yeah,
like Goodfellas could have been number 1 on either of these lists.
Swingers was in the 90s. I mean, that movie was incredible.
It's a great film. It's not
top 5. Not top 5, but I mean, so many great films in that decade.
Clean, Mikey?
All right. Since Drew obviously won.
Yes, Drew.
Like a bastard.
Okay. Yeah. So congratulations, Drew. He definitely ran away with this one. Mainly because Pete argued with me in the middle of it. But besides
because
you got a little tense.
3 hours.
You were absolutely wrong and had to be put straight.
No. Anyways.
We'll just take out the word rosebud from.
Okay. That's the.
Just take out that one word.
I'll give props. I'll give you props for using a very good film term, but yeah, come on. You're giving them a pass for no reason.
I'm not giving them a pass.
100%.
It was a book-ended ending to a non-linear film. How else are you going to end a non-linear film than to book end? Let's not do this. Hey, Drew, what do you want to do a review on?
Yeah, good win, Drew.
Thanks, guys. This was fun. This is great.
What do you want to do,
buddy? So, Drew, here's what I recommend. Before you say something and we get into more debates, I'd ideally like you to pick something from that top 5 90s movies list because I think there's so many good ones there. The only one that's pretty much off limits is Home Alone. Everything else is pretty much on the table. So,
From any of our top fives?
Yeah, anybody that
Wow.
there's so many good ones on that list. So
I
But don't
would
pick something weird.
no. I
Yeah.
would
I'm gonna get. You see me waiting. Like I'm gonna get so mad if you get
Yeah.
approval to get a movie I wouldn't get approval for.
no, it's got to be a blockbuster type film
okay.
or Oscar winning film.
So is Fargo not blockbuster enough? Like I just am trying to get a litmus test.
Season two.
Okay,
Four.
that's what
Season 4, probably.
Well, I don't know that. Honestly, I don't know that any on my list would be blockbuster other than Schindler's List or
Let's look at Peter's list then.
maybe Groundhog Day.
Hoop Dreams.
Hoop Dreams was like number 3 on the list, by the way. I saw.
It's on a lot of lists. Yeah.
What about Shawshank?
Yeah, I mean, Shawshank would be one. Good.
Shawshank or
Saving Private Ryan, L.A. Confidential, Braveheart.
well, not L.A. Confidential. We don't have to.
You don't like L.A. Confidential, Pete?
Goodfellas, Titanic.
Goodfellas. Yeah, Goodfellas would work.
Forrest.
I'd even do.
Titanic would be fun to make fun of.
I'd even do Groundhog Day. I would do that.
I would do Godfather with this group too.
I would do Groundhog Day with this group.
That would be funny.
It's up to Drew.
Drew gets a final choice.
Well, we just did a series movie,
It's your
right?
guys' show. Let's choose one and we'll pretend
Well,
it's
we just did something very serious.
I feel like Groundhog Day's not big enough.
No, that's season 2.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. I think that's season 2.
well, okay, maybe it's not on any of our lists. Dumb and Dumber.
I would. I'm down with Dumb and Dumber.
I'm down with Dumb and Dumber.
Want to like laugh?
Yeah,
Oh my god, that's one of the best movies.
It's so good.
John Barry, do you like Dumb and Dumber or no?
I do. I like the movie. I don't know a lot about it.
Well, watch it again.
Yeah.
Can you get on board with that or no?
Can
Dumb
you
and Dumber?
have it, or-
Oh yeah. Anytime I get to be hanging out with you guys. Hell yeah.
You're anti it though, right? Like, are you
No.
like?
Mm-mm.
Are
All
you
right,
mad at Jim Carrey for some reason?
No.
Okay,
I like
good.
the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's a
Good.
to speak in your the Escarcega brothers. I think it's like a season 2, season 3 pick.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
fair. That's fair.
I still think it's
That's
one
fair.
all the time.
All right, fellas. I guess if we're choosing a film this time of year with the holidays coming up, we should probably go
Great
with
idea.
a Christmas movie. It sounds like Home Alone's already in the works. So what about a Christmas Story? That one's
Oh heck yeah.
once as iconic as it gets.
Christmas Story is a great idea, Drew.
Yeah.
Glad
The
you,
sequel's coming out too, I think.
I'm totally on board with that idea, by the way.
yeah, I'm glad you came with
Pete,
that.
put me on that one if I can. That'd be awesome.
Awesome.
Oh, we'll talk about it, John Bear.
Oh, damn it.
Look, no film is on 24 hours a day for 3 days during the Christmas season than Christmas Story. So I think that'll be a great fit. I think it has a great cultural reference to it. So we'll definitely do that, and we'll look forward to everybody coming on board. If you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, or any other your favorite podcast networks, make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I don't know what Pete's doing with his microphone there. We're also on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and like us on YouTube as well. And upcoming, I have no idea what other films are upcoming at this point because it's out of order. So we'll keep that. And I want to thank all my guests, Pete, Drew, John Barrett. Thank you so much.
Congrats, Drew.
Yeah.
John, great to see you again.
Yes,
Always.
we'll see you next on the Christmas Story podcast. Thank you, everyone. And with that, that is a cut. Thank you, guys.